hear me. Hello, everyone. And they can hear you guys. Hello, everyone. You should be able to hear me. You should be able to hear the girls. You should be able to see everybody. Okay, we are going to get started with our panel today, going over our Nectar and 16 personality results, which I think all of us were DMing each other. Like, we're pretty excited to go over this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I sent it to the Discord as well. So a lot of the Discord has been filling out their tests as well. So if you guys want to continue to share those in the chat, I'll read those on YouTube. Ladies, do you want to introduce yourself, starting with Madame Genevieve?
Sure. Hi, guys. Happy to be here. I am Madame Genevieve, and I am an IRL and online sex worker, sex educator, occasional streamer on YouTube and Twitch. And in 2025, you'll be seeing a lot more of me online. So definitely stay tuned for some fun new content coming up.
Love that. Also, Chad is saying that Madame Jen is a little bit low. If we want to, if we can do anything about that.
A little more. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Harmony, go ahead. Introduce yourself. We'll check volume as we do this.
I'm Harmony Bancroft, also known as Maiden Monster in the chat. You can find me on x.com or Blue Sky now. I'm sort of moving over to Blue Sky a little bit. I'll be posting there more, just under the same name, Harmony Bancroft.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm also a sex worker, IRL sex worker, and content creator. So
love it. Okay, perfect. And Arena.
Hi everyone, my name's Arena Nana on YouTube, and Monoshock John on Instagram and TikTok, and Arena John on Blue Sky.
Oh, nice.
On there. And recently on a roster for an agency doing modeling. So.
What? Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Nice.
I have to be a little bit fangirly here and say your photos recently are amazing. Am I yelling at you now?
No, your audio got really good. Okay, hold on, wait, Jen.
It's always hard for me to know.
Yeah, go ahead and talk for a second and keep gushing about Arena so I can check your volume.
Okay, perfect. Yes, I don't know. You all need to find that link that Brittany has in the chat or the description and follow her on Instagram, because these photos are amazing. Like glam art. We're giving like Vogue. It's beautiful. I absolutely love them. They're so great.
True. All right. We love the vibes, and moving into vibes, which one should we start with, girls? So how do we want to do this? Do we want to start with Nectar, since I think it's a tinier amount of information, like a smaller amount of information, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I have mine pulled up. I'm assuming everybody has theirs pulled up. Maybe we can just like literally go, from top to bottom type thing. So let's start with what were our initial, I guess, what do they call it? Types?
Yeah, there's the 16 personalities, which I think is based on the Myers-Briggs.
Right.
It's like a, yep.
And then Nectar, I don't know what, I guess theirs is their own, right?
It's a Jubilee thing. So the channel that runs Jubilee, they have another channel, Nectar, and they developed this, they're trying to develop a dating app ultimately, but they had this love print that they use for their Build-A-Boo series. That came out a while ago. But yeah, it's how you are in relationships, or what sort of relationship style you have.
Okay, so starting with the Nectar love print, what was your, I guess, categorization? What was your love print name? Who wants to start?
I can start. I have it pulled up right here. Mine was AIEG.
Okay. So what does it tell you? You want to start with your color and all that stuff so we can know what that means?
My color is iris. And it says, you are an I person, and I'm emotional and guarded. And my motto is trust is earned. And my love print number is 5. So I prioritize making connections with people. So
okay, love.
I'm more active than reflective, more I than we, more emotional than physical, and more guarded than open.
Okay, love. Okay.
Do you feel like that was an accurate recap of yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Very much so. Very much so.
Do you have the for you description? So there's like the motto and there's the for you. Should we read that out? They're like kind of short paragraphs if we.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable with that. Yeah. Harmony, you want to read yours?
Okay. So my for you says, your approach to loving entails a delicate balancing of opposites. You value verbal communication and emotional connection with your partner as much as your independence and privacy. Building trust takes time, but even as you gradually share the secrets of your life, you still prioritize spending time outside your relationship with your friends and hobbies. And that's definitely, yeah, that's right on. Like the part of me, it's hard for me to know too because I've been single for so long. Um, then I'm like, I wonder if I'd actually be that way in a relationship, or if this is just, because I'm single. These are my priorities now. So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
And I love categorization. I do. So I know some people can have hesitancy around these types of, placements, but I think what's cool about it is like it can change. Like my 16 personalities changed and it hasn't changed in like a
Yes.
decade. So I was like,
Whoa.
oh shit, like I'm pretty excited about that. But like I love it. I think it's nice. And they actually, I don't know why, but they're pretty good. Like they're kind of good at it. Even astrology, like every time I read about Taurus, I'm like, oh, that's me. I don't know, girl. I'm in love with it.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned astrology because I felt like reading my results, I was like, ooh, this does fit in with my little Capricorn sun situation. Like that's very much in line here.
Love that. Love that. All right. Genevieve, do you want to go?
Yeah. I actually am just one color away from harmony. I am a blueberry.
Ooh.
So we do have some overlap. I am active. I'm an I person. I tend to be more physical, so that's where you and I differ there. And I am also guarded. So my motto is I contain multitudes. My love print
Ooh.
number is 8. So I am prioritizing bonding with a partner, but I think that's a good point that you raised earlier, and that for those of you who don't know, I've been in a committed relationship with my partner for 11 years now. We just celebrated our 11-year anniversary. So that is a major
Wonderful.
priority in my life. And we are making some changes in our personal life where prioritizing our relationship has been like the forefront for both of us over the past year, and going into next year. So that felt really in line.
Love that.
Just want to show off this little ring situation here too, for those of you who may not have seen it. Speaking of prioritizing relationships,
Stop.
heck
Congratulations.
yes.
Congratulations.
Thank
so
you.
you're
Thank you so
engaged?
much.
Okay,
We are
awesome.
officially engaged. We've called each other
Yay!
fiance
Congrats.
for years because we intended on getting married before the pandemic and
Oh,
before all
wow.
of life happened. But it's like it is time. This is happening now.
Love it. Congratulations
So
to both
really
of you.
exciting. Thank you.
That's
Thank
really
you so
great.
much.
Did you want to read the For You section?
Yeah. Let's see here. Your approach to relationships is a delicate balance of opposites. You value verbal communication and physical intimacy as much as you value your independence and privacy. You need to build trust, but even as you gradually trust your partner, you will prefer to keep some areas of your life separate, such as your circle of friends or hobbies. And that's really spot on. My partner and I do a lot of stuff together, but we also do have our private, personal lives, and it's not that that's a secret, but it does enrich us both independently. So when we come back together, we have more to bond over, I think, and more to share.
I love that. And then what was your Nectar love print thing, like your 4 letters?
I am AIPG.
Okay,
So
cool.
active, partnership. I'm sorry, active, I, physical, and guarded.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Irina.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have taken the love print before, and I'm glad I retook it because it changed. So it used to be pistachio, which is RIEG, I think, or RIPG, one of those. Oh no, it was RWPG. RWPG was pistachio. Now I'm plum. I am AWPO.
Oh.
So the W and the P stayed, but the G changed to an O, and the R changed to an A. So I'm active, a we person, physical, and open. My motto is love has changed the way I think about everything. And then the For You section, you see love as bringing together 2 separate worlds. It's all about self-growth through partnership. Your approach entails as much verbal communication as it does physical intimacy. You offer total transparency from the beginning and nurture it as you go along. You believe that's what allows you and your partner to embrace each other's flaws, fears, and aspirations in an ongoing journey of mutual support and growth. And my love print number is 10, meaning I'm prioritizing bonding with a partner. And what's interesting, I'd be curious for my partner to retake it because when we took it together back in the day, we were both pistachio. I'm wondering if his has changed as well and how.
I'm curious, how long ago did you say how long ago it was that you had taken it
I
previously?
took it, I think, like over a year and a half ago.
Okay, so a
It was like
significant
when
amount
the
of time.
test first came out. Yeah, so it's been a while. But it was fun that we were
Yeah.
both pistachio at the time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I should have my partner take it because I actually didn't have them take it. Okay, so my nectar is love print is AIPO. My color is willow. I'm an active, an I person. I'm physical and open. My motto is I need space, but not too much, which I think is very appropriate. And then my love print number is 10. And so I do prioritize bonding with a partner. My For You says a partner is an important part of your community, but you cherish having your own hobbies and circle of friends. Keeping them separate is what helps you thrive in a relationship. Because when you do spend time with your partner, you show them everything about yourself and express your emotions as deeply through touch as you do through conversation. I think that's perfect. That's spot on. That's really good. Yeah. I'm actually very I think it's hard when you're like a very hyper independent person, but then you also want that compatibility and that partnership and that I want to share everything with my best friend. But also like I want to lock myself in this office and spend time alone and do my hobbies and do my things. And so it's nice that there is a nice person to balance that with. And I think that's exactly how our relationship works. Yeah.
And your motto sounds like very similar to like your other motto of like open with boundaries.
For
I think.
sure. Yeah. I love it because
Like,
I really, it's
the
like
same kind of tension.
Yeah. I think, well, it's hard too, because I think my whole life I've always struggled to sort of find a person that understands like I'm independent, but I'm also needy. Okay. So like I want my space, but not too much, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. So
I
how do
feel
we,
like these were really accurate. I'm so impressed by this because I think
hmm
I don't know, I grew up taking like all the quizzes in like the magazines, you'd get like your
yeah.
Cosmopolitan, your Glamour, whatever. I love taking a quiz. It is so fun for me. But frequently I'm like, I don't know if that answer, result, or whatever is spot on. This felt really accurate. And it's interesting to hear that you guys also feel that way too.
Yeah. So, then that begs the question, you know how people feel like astrology only makes sense because we want to see what we want to see what we want. And I feel like, I don't know if that's always true in everything, but I do feel like I was happy with the results, which I'm not sure what that means or how that differs from that initial, like, you only see what you want to see. I don't know. What I see, I like though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think so. I mean, so the last one with guarded versus open. I'm guarded. I got more guarded. Although the arrow, like, so they do like a spectrum. It's like,
Mm.
it's like here instead of here. So
It's not
Mm-hmm.
not
all the
like
way over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right. But I feel like okay, they go further, and so when they explain guarded, they say getting to know someone doesn't happen all at once. Being guarded doesn't necessarily mean you aren't open. It just means that you prefer things to unfold organically. And so
Mm.
when I read into them, like, yeah, that's definitely true. Like, yeah.
I had a really similar
Mhm.
response because I don't think of myself as a guarded person. I do think of myself
Right.
as an open person. So when I did first
Mhm.
see the G on mine, I thought, and I get mine's also like just off center. It's not all the way.
Right.
But then I read what they meant by guarded, and maybe I was just having like a reaction to the term because
Yeah.
their description of guarded does make sense. I do
Yeah.
take a little while to really let people know like the real me or like my inner
Mhm.
thoughts totally. Um,
Yeah, same. I have to
so
like
I had
sense out the vibe first and like then really feel
mhm,
safe with somebody before I can really start to open up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm open,
Mm.
I can converse with people. I feel like I can forge connections easily, but for that deeper level, it needs a little time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Once I read them, I'm like, yeah, that does make sense. Although some of them I
Yeah.
was like, am I guarded? Am I? But I guess yeah, I am.
Now, how do we want to do the next section? Because there is a lot of reading to the next section. How do we want to? Do we want to talk about like maybe the graphs of just like closer to active or closer to reflective or closer to this or closer to that? Like, how do we want to do this next part?
I think that's good. Your idea. Let
Yeah.
me see if I did not take screenshots of the graphs. Let me see if I still have my tab open. I do. Yes. Good. Perfect. My A is like almost centered. Like I'm just
Same with mine. Yeah.
just slightly more active than I am reflective. But my we is actually quite like here you can actually
like very close to the we. Your screen's pretty white for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not enough contrast, but
Like I'm much in the. You mean in the partnership like category? We have different letters, or is it? Does it all say communication, partnership, intimacy, or like does ours say?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so for
because so it's
those
communication,
categories are the same. Yeah.
like communication, like where are you guys at? I'm
Middle.
almost in the middle.
I'm
Almost
Same.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
slightly off center, more towards active. Probably
Okay.
like a 60-40 on mine.
Okay.
I'm
And
probably like 51-49. for
yeah,
that.
I'm a
Just
little
barely.
slightly towards reflective, but I'm basically in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, what about partnership? I'm so close to the I. Holy fuck. Like
I'm way over here for I. I'm like,
mm,
yeah, so here's
yeah.
the N. Here's my I. Yeah.
yeah, if this is the I, I'm
I'm
like right
just
here. There's
Off
like a
center towards I. I'm almost in the center, but slightly more towards I.
That one's
I'm
like my
quite-
biggest.
Most significant.
Yeah.
My partnership and vulnerability are both to one side, and I'm like, so this is the we, and this is where I am. So
okay.
all this is
Interesting.
leftover.
And I wonder
And then for intimacy.
wait, hold on.
Oh,
For the
sorry, go
we,
ahead.
the I, okay, you two have been in relationships longer. And I wonder if that plays a role. Like my relationship's
That's
fairly
what I'm
new.
wondering.
Yeah, right. So I wonder if
I'm
we're
so independent. I'm a single mom. Like even
Yeah.
the thought of someone else
Yeah.
coming into my life right now, it's like,
Mhm.
you know.
And Brittany, your relationship
Yeah.
is still new.
few years, like we're a couple years, we're full 2 years plus into it now, but like
Yeah.
it's still like fresh in that sense.
That's-
So
Yeah.
I wonder
still
how much that will
beginning stages,
change.
Really.
yeah, so that's kind of interesting. I wonder how much that plays a role. Like, will we get more into the we?
Do we want to read the you are a I person section versus the we person section? Because I think the other ones are a little bit self-explanatory, but I am curious about people who got an I result that have been in
Yeah.
long-term relationships, because I can imagine that just it might mean something else, you know? So I think because I haven't read the I paragraph before.
And I
got
haven't read the
both
we
times.
paragraph.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
think we should
I'll
just
read
the-
I and then you can read we. Okay.
All
So
Wait,
I'm an I.
You have an
person.
I you are an I
Yeah,
person.
wait,
Yeah,
you
I
have
have
an
an
I as a long-term relationship. I'm the only
Yeah,
one
as
with
some.
you there.
Oh.
Now my eye's not
so-
crazy towards the eye. It's mostly towards the center, but it's slightly closer to eye.
Okay,
Mine
okay.
is mine is drastic. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
Okay. You believe nobody completes anyone. You have your own interests, hobbies, and friends, and you might like to keep all of that or some of that separate, even when you're together. Being in a partnership doesn't mean you stop being who you are, your self-care, and all of that. You want to make sure you care for yourself as much as you care for each other.
That's what the I says for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Your eye says the same
Yeah,
thing?
says the
Okay,
same thing.
perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So Arena.
So for me, and I think I know which question influenced this.
Ooh.
It says, you are a we person. You want to create shared memories, be in the moment with your partner. Exploring your different worlds is how you become a part of each other's lives. For you, quality time is top tier important. It comes before everything else. Otherwise, you might feel like, what's the point of a partnership, you know? And what's interesting is they asked, one of the questions was, I would rather do things with my partner. And that's always been true for me. So, and it's not that we don't do things separately. We do. I climb, and my partner doesn't. I am going to be taking belly dance classes. I've been doing book clubs. I've been hanging out with my female friends a lot. But every time I do something separate, I would rather he be there. And same for him, like he plays video games and I don't, but he wants me to, like we want to like take these things and stuff, but we don't, we also obviously are like, okay, well, this is my hobby, so I'm gonna keep doing it even if you're not. But I would love you to join. Yeah.
Sorry, chat. Sorry, chat. I was muted from you guys, but I wasn't muted for the girls. I'm so sorry. I was just explaining. I was just explaining how my partner plays D&D, but I don't, and how to kind of counter what Arena said is like the other side of it is that I love that I don't get invited to share hobbies with them because I don't have that particular hobby, but I will say I've never not dated a D&Der. So it's kind of interesting the type. I keep dating the same type of person, but our hobbies are very separate. And then they were making fun of my partner was like, you don't have hobbies. You have one hobby. I was like, I have hobbies. They're like, you have one hobby and that's people. I was like, that's a very wide hobby. Okay. But it's kind of true. Like I just like people. So I like books and I like podcasts and I like documentaries, which is kind of just like observing people, but less like group activity. So it's kind of interesting, huh? Like how we find these sort of ways to cohabitate with somebody or make it work or invite them into our universe, because it's really what we're doing, right? We're like creating a whole world with somebody. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, sorry, that's what I wanted to share.
I mean, for me, I wonder how much of it, like my neurodivergency comes into play too. Like with it being such an I person, that's almost like my like internal world is like kind of what I'm rigid around, if that makes sense. And so yeah, I don't know if I quite understand how to like get onto the same wavelength as far as like a really intimate, like monogamous partner. Like I just don't know if that's like how I work. Like my brain is, I'm just so all consumed in my interests and like my sensory issues and like, like, yeah. So I wonder, for me, I wonder if how my brain works. Like,
yeah,
goes to that
when
at
you
all.
like that high compatibility partner with you is going to be so not the typical, right? It's going to be so unique to the cohabitation that you guys will need. It's kind of interesting.
And so that's why I wonder if I ever found that sort of a partner that was just so in line, like would this change,
Yeah.
Because I could see it go both ways either,
Yeah, it would be interesting to see
You'll
if we
have to retake it down the road.
That's
Yes.
if we retake this, I wonder how this will change in like 5 years for some of us. Yeah. Okay, now for what was the next one? Intimacy? Question mark? Okay, I'm basically in the middle.
Yes.
A little bit closer to physical though.
Yeah, I'm basically in the middle too, like
yeah, just like
right here, but I'm with emotional.
Yeah.
I'm slightly closer to physical, but
I'm
it's
also
almost
slightly
in the middle.
closer to physical, which I'm
the only emo girl.
Yes, you should read yours because I've never read the emotional part. That's interesting.
Okay.
Yes. Can you read
Should I
us
read
that?
it? You prefer emotional intimacy. For you, emotional closeness comes before physical contact. When you feel emotionally connected and are able to share the most intimate parts of yourself with your partner, your desire for them soars. It's all about feeling emotionally safe with your partner, like you can rely on them to be available for your needs. That bonds you. That's true. And I'm also demi. I identify as like demisexual, so
love that.
It tracks. It tracks. The emotions come first and then the physical. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I was thinking about my answers in relation to like my sexuality. So I am obviously in a relationship with a man, but I don't identify as straight. So I think that one reason that I ended up with slightly more I is because I do find myself still needing a lot of time and community and connection with women and femmes, and we are also poly, and so that can play a factor into us kind of having a little bit of our own time without each other. And then the physical versus emotional question, I'm sure you guys probably remember going through, it was something along the lines of, can you have good sex without being emotionally connected to someone? And I did answer yes to that one. I don't always need a strong emotional connection. And so I think that's what shifted me slightly more physical.
Yeah, same.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember saying that I don't need like a full, I just need like enough, but not a lot. And I remember like, I remember my answers being very like more in the, it would make sense that I got physical as well for the same, I think, reasoning.
I
Um,
answered yes to that one too, but yeah.
Mm.
I must have also answered then yes to other emotional ones that
Yes.
outweighed that.
yeah. Yeah.
So, Harmony, you identify as demisexual. I don't identify that way. And I also noticed that, so I also answered that yes, you can have a great sexual experience without an emotional connection. But another thing that I noticed for me is that I'm very like in all, no, not all, but in my adult relationships, I've been very chemistry, physical attraction forward rather than necessarily an intellectual or emotional connection first. I feel like that's the part that develops secondarily.
Mm.
So that's an interesting distinction too. And then I also
Yeah.
wonder whether there are allosexual people that get the E and what
Yeah.
that's like. Because
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I mean, this is saying like I like physical contact and stuff, but I also sometimes get overtouched. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, like I, I don't want, certain touches right now. But at the same time, my approach to relationships has been like, let's make a sexual connection first.
Mm.
And then we'll figure out the emotional.
I think,
Yeah, I also wonder if my work comes into play there too, because it's like, sex is just so easy, it doesn't have to be meaningful for me at all, So I look for something
Yeah.
deeper as far as like a partner is concerned.
For a
Yeah.
personal relationship, you do want to
Yeah.
have that emotional connection
Yeah.
more so. Yeah.
Right. Like sex is still important, but like um yeah, it doesn't hold the same weight as the emotional intimacy.
yeah, I think one of the questions was something like, can you have a good relationship without sex or something like that? Or I remember thinking like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, obviously, like if there comes a point in my marriage where like sex isn't the focus, like I'm good with that. But also like life happens. So like, I'm always wondering like this idea of, like prioritizing the sex over the emotional. Like I feel like loving a person for the consciousness that they are will trump anything that feels secondary to that thing existing. Like I could never imagine ending my marriage with my partner because our sex life stopped. But that's because like the person that they are trumps that need for like that particular form of intimacy. And plus like what is sex? Like I feel like, no offense to the world, it is just like does not have an imagination. So when they think of sex stopping, they're like, I don't know what they're thinking of, but I'm like,
Yeah,
like there's so many things to do. Like there's so many things to do to build intimacy physically that I'm like, I don't know. We'll find a way.
Like, I feel like in most long-term relationships, it's probably inevitable that at some point you're going to go through a period where the sex is not as much of a priority or it's not happening as frequently. But for me, the other forms of physical intimacy still come into play, right? Like we're still, hopefully in that situation, we're still going to find other ways
Yeah.
to be physically close to each other, even if for whatever reason we're not feeling highly sexual towards each other. I still want to hold hands and cuddle and do things like that.
For sure. I don't even know, like when I'm going to be real, I don't even know. I just feel like even making out, like is making out sexual or is it just like intimate? I can't tell at this point in my life, but it just feels like
I feel like it's more intimate than sexual.
I was going to say at the rate I've kissed my friends in my life, I feel like it's just intimate, but like, you know what I mean? I think sometimes it's just nice to have a good snog, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Stop it. My guy's sitting right there and you guys talking about snogging.
Well, speaking of which, let's move on to vulnerability, which I'm very curious about because the guarded people in the room, I wonder if your vulnerability then would be, I guess, on the more, like mine's like much closer to the open side, but it's like middle, but open. Where are we at?
Yeah, it's like guarded.
Oh, like close to guarded?
Yeah. Well, so here's the middle, and this is where I'm at. I'm guarded.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm about 2/3 of the way towards guarded.
Okay.
I'm like 3/4 of the way towards open. So pretty close to
Mm.
same as with the partnership. I'm as much we as I am open.
Okay. Okay. And does anyone need to read anything about the vulnerability stuff? Does anyone want to share that?
You were open also, Brittany, is that right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Harmony and I got guarded, and
Yeah.
you
Here, I can read the
two
open and
got
then you
open.
guys can
Okay,
read the
perfect.
guarded. So it says you are open. You don't want to hide. You want you and your partner's strengths and weaknesses out in the open. The full package, the light and the dark, because it's the only way you can know who you're with. You prefer to get things out in the open to know if you and your partner are a good fit. Why hold anything back? That is true. We practice a radical honesty relationship, which is like we tell each other everything, even if it hurts our feelings or is uncomfortable. We do it with the greatest amount of kindness, though. I just want to be very clear when I say like we tell each other everything, even if it hurts our feelings, it doesn't mean we're like rude or blunt or aggressive or cruel. It's very soft. It's very like, please prepare yourself. It's very like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. Here's a thought I had. Can we examine it together? It's very like, especially because we're both neurodivergent, it's very, we don't want to trigger that PDA. We want to make sure that when we're presenting each other information, we do it in a way that is like very digestible. And I think because we're both neurodivergent, it allows us to be very like, I don't know how to say it because it's the only relationship I've had where we've both come into this like very compassionately, like meaning to suffer with, but we're never trying to take advantage of each other. So when we present a problem, it's really coming from a place of like, hey, I think I'm struggling with this today. I think I'm a little triggered PDA style, or I think, hey, like I'm going to have like an ADHD issue today, or like, it's never like I'm trying to be lazy. So I'm going to like make an excuse and I'm going to take advantage of my partner. I'm really coming to you with the vulnerability that, the rest of the world would maybe judge me for. So can you please like handle this with care? And I think like this has really helped us feel very secure, especially me, where I always wanted that from partners where I would say, you don't have to lie to me. Just tell me what's going on so we can problem solve. But I always had partners that felt like what she's really saying is lie to her because she doesn't want to hear it. And then it would like erode at the relationship. And I'd feel like, okay, I'm confused about what we're doing here because I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to I'm a Taurus. I'm going to find a solution, girl. Let me find it for us. But that's the problem is like, I feel like people don't believe me because they think she's going to judge me. And I think this is the first relationship I've been in where like he has trusted me not to judge him, but instead to like work with him to find solutions for the both of us. And whether it's his problem or my problem, or we're both, struggling with Indiana being sick, you know what I mean? Whether it's us stressing over her, like we're here to solve the problem together without judgment. And so I think being open has helped that. Yeah. One of you want to read about guarded? Oh, go ahead, Jen. Go ahead. You start.
Sorry, let me respond real quick
please.
to that, and then we can read about guarded. This may have been a weird thought process that I had, but when I completed it, I remember thinking, I got guarded, but I bet Brittany got open. And I felt like that based on how you were talking about your courtship and how you sought out your relationship and you sought to like really have those important, uncomfortable conversations super early on and like identify things that were like you sought to bring them up. You sought to have these conversations rather than just let them more arise naturally with time.
Definitely.
And so I had a feeling you were going to get open just based on at least your approach to your most recent relationship.
And definitely. And I tell you this, I probably would have been more guarded in my 20s. My life would have been different. I definitely know I'm changing. That's why I love to take these tests every few years to see how the results come out. Because you just change. You change as you should over time. Yeah. Okay, who wants to read the quote? Go ahead.
Read guarded?
Yeah.
Okay. Getting to know someone doesn't happen all at once. Being guarded doesn't necessarily mean you aren't open. It just means you prefer things to unfold organically. You and your partner can't just show each other everything. Your inner worlds are sacred, to be gradually explored. Entrance needs to be earned with trust, and building trust takes time.
I think that makes so much sense, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Totally tracks. Yeah. Like, yeah,
It
my
tracks
inner
for me
world
for
is
sure.
like, yeah. Like I said, that's the thing I'm very like rigid about almost. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but yeah.
I knew when I got in my relationship 11 years ago that I did want something serious, but we still took our time and kind of let it build organically. So we didn't have a structured courtship like you did. We still ended up in the same place and we still reached similar conclusions, but it was definitely more of a gradual building of trust and growing together.
I wonder for Jen whether yours will change throughout your relationship, especially now that your relationship is newly changing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so for me, within this relationship, we were both pistachio, which is RWPG. So we both got G, and now I'm
Yeah.
O, and he hasn't taken it again yet. So I'll see.
To
But
be determined.
within the same relationship, my approach to it seemingly has changed over the 4 years. So I wonder like how marriage is going to change that, kids are going to
Mhm.
change that, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to be interesting to retake this again down the road. I've never taken it before. I've never taken either of the 2 quizzes that we took before, which is crazy. I love taking tests, so how have I never taken a personality test before? But I will definitely be taking this again in like another year or 2.
I love that. And now for the last section, it's our love print numbers. I think someone else got a 10, right? Was it Arena? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So we're gonna have the same then paragraph. You girls got different numbers though. So do we want to read those out loud just so we can see what that's about? Arena, do you want to read the 10
Yeah.
out since we're both the same?
yeah, so 10. Also, we totally skipped the A versus R.
Where? What's that mean? What's A versus R?
The
Oh.
active versus reflective. We
Oh,
totally
the top
skipped
one
first
around
letter.
communication.
Yeah.
Oh, did we?
talked about where we were, but we didn't read the paragraphs because I think at the time we're like, oh, it's going to take too long to read the paragraphs, but they're going by pretty quick because there's not a lot. There's
That's
just a few
true. We
options.
are going by. I have active. Who is the other one?
Active. I have active as well.
Same.
Oh,
Are we all
I used to
active?
be I'm active, but I used to be reflective.
Oh, so we all have the same one.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So that's communication style.
Mhm.
Oh, I kind of love that for all of us, though. The first sentence is, you're probably not one to shy away from expressing your feelings directly. I'm like, you're welcome.
That's true.
What's interesting to me is actually the juxtaposition of the active with the guarded,
Mm.
because it almost
Mm.
feels to me like the reflective would be more guarded. So I'm also curious about any people who got an R and an O.
Yeah.
And then you ladies have an A and a G.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, let me finish reading this because this is kind of interesting. It says, moments when you and your partner don't see eye to eye for you are priceless, priceless opportunities for deeper understanding and getting closer. So I think that's kind of different than the typical, especially in like movies and stuff. It's like an opportunity to be like, should we end this relationship? I'm like, we differ. What's that about? Like, let's explore that. It's more like interesting, I think, in my worldview. It goes on to say, you think there's no time like the present to work something out and it's better to never let the moment get away. That is us. Like, one of our rules in the relationship is like, as soon as we can do it, let's talk about it, just because like we're not going to sleep tonight if we don't. And like, that's very frustrating for the both of us. We already don't sleep well enough as it is. But also we're very like kind and compassionate to the fact that like spoons might dwindle. We might not be able to like do it right now. Maybe we should take a break and separate. Or we're very good about like, okay, we've been like, this is a good conversation. Let's take a 30-minute break. We'll set out our computers and come back for it. Like, we're very negotiate through the process. I think a lot of the TV relationships I see, like we're dissecting Sex and the City right now in the Discord. We're almost done. It is so great of a show and so toxic of relationships. Like, they can't communicate. They're always hiding. There's always lying. There's deceit. There's like, oh, don't talk about this. Don't mention it. And then it comes out later. And it's like, wow, the way we're trained through media to just be so self-destructive in our love life. And so I kind of appreciate this idea of an active communicator is somebody who's willing to have the conversation that we've been trained to sort of like, don't bring it up. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it really highlights the desire to problem solve, because that's something that I almost, maybe to a fault, am always like, okay, I can find a solution. I can figure this out. And there are some times where I need to be like, you know what? pause on that. Like, let's just reflect. But
Mhm,
generally,
mhm.
I'm actively looking to dissect and solve things.
Love that. Okay, who wants to read the opposite one? The ground, right? Does somebody? No, we all did active. Wait.
None of them
We
has
all did
it.
active.
No.
I'm trying to see if I could find my old result so I can read the reflective part. Because when I scrolled down and clicked on like read all, I think it started doing compatibility of like my powers.
Oh, okay. Well,
So I'm trying to find my old result so we can read the reflective, because I think reflective is more like you do eventually communicate with your partner, because I remember it was something like you do eventually communicate with your partner, but you want to process your feelings on your own first,
makes sense.
which I think has definitely shifted for me, and it's still I would say probably true for my friendships, but not for my partnership anymore. So now I very much like when I feel something, I bring it up
Oh.
immediately.
Discord just sent it to me.
Oh, awesome.
Nice,
Here.
Amazing.
Discord.
Let me read it. It says, you need space and time alone to process your thoughts and feelings when there's a disagreement. You don't want to just react. You want to intentionally respond. So you take some time to think. No big deal. You got to feel everything out before you can figure out what you really mean to say. Okay, so it's like being considerate and being thoughtful versus like working it out in the moment. I mean, even on stream, you'll see me like I'm a very problem solve in the moment out loud, like reflect on my thoughts, like, but I do it out loud in the moment versus, yeah, I don't really like go away and think about too many things, even in my own personal life. Though I will say I do spend, that's a confusing thing because in the Myers or the 16 personalities quiz, I do answer a lot of the questions as like a combination of wanting to think before presenting, but also wanting to work it out at the same time. So it's kind of, maybe it's context more, but you end up being one or the other more or less.
But I mean, the 16 personalities makes sense because the 16 personalities is more like, who are you? Whereas the love print is who are you in a relationship, right? And those are slightly different categories because, as I mentioned, I'm still like, if I was taking this quiz as far as how I interact with my friends, my result would be very different versus how I interact with my partner and what I expect of my partner. So
Yeah, I took this quiz obviously with the filter of my relationship.
Same,
So
yeah.
how things play
I just
in that.
took it as a single person, like, because that's what I am.
And I think that's probably
Yeah.
the most accurate way to go. Like whatever your
Mhm.
current dynamic is will give you the best result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most accurate result for now, at least.
I don't think I've even ever been in like a super healthy relationship. So, and I've been single for years now. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting dynamic. And I'm also I'm not oriented towards like, oh, I'm not looking for a relationship, you know. I'm like very happily single. So.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting, and I think this plays a role, and I don't want to speak for anyone else on the panel, but I'll say for myself, sometimes my younger siblings will be like, why did you have so many bad relationships growing up? And I was like, for this same reason that I needed therapy and didn't get it till I was nearly 30. And it's because you're finding solutions in the wrong places, but it feels so right at the time. And you think this is it. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times I was in relationships and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is great. Is this love? And then I was like, this is something. And it was like a version of love. And then it would just like destroy itself. And I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
And it would feel like, what did I do wrong? And then a part of it was like, I was denying myself an ability to know myself and to heal and to face my traumas and my diagnoses and to also understand how my brain worked separate from like being in a relationship and in being in one. So I think by
That's
the time,
literally where I'm at now.
and look, by the time I got with this partner, like I had a gap in relationships for a few years where I wasn't dating anyone seriously. A couple first dates, and I was always like, no, you're not the person. And everyone was waiting to see if this relationship was another repeat of a pattern. Or was I going to break the cycle? And since I broke it this time around, that was the data I needed to say, okay, see, we did the therapy and we did stuff and it worked, but also it's never ending. We're always going to be working on ourselves. And that's like a really hard realization to have, is like, I'll never have the story of like healthy relationships through my 20s that all just ended because we had disagreements on basic stuff. It was, nope, they imploded messily and loud. And that's my life. Like, that's my story. And that's like a little frustrating sometimes because you don't think of yourself as that person, but like that was my life. And all of it was because I had diagnoses that I wasn't given as a child. Like, could you imagine if I had been diagnosed and given resources and my education would have been different? Like, I can't blame anybody, but man, it's interesting how our life could have gone different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly where I'm at now. Like just figuring out all the things that I now know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really does take time. I was heavily
Mhm.
influenced by Sex and the City as like a young person, right? Like that was my favorite show going through
Same.
college, and like my friends and I would use that as a point of reference to like
Same.
discuss and navigate our own relationships and situations that we were in. And looking back, like no wonder nothing was working out. Like
Literally.
we were like the blind leading the blind. We were following like such terrible advice and rhetoric from not only Sex and the City but other media shows in the early 2000s that really didn't show healthy dynamics of relationships, at least that I was being exposed to. I felt like you had to play games, you had to do
Oh,
like
yeah.
all sorts of
Or
just nonsense.
even growing up thinking Big and Carrie had a great relationship, and now like every time I see it as I get older, I'm like, oh my god, this relationship sucks ass. Like there's just no communication. He's like a big baby. She's just throwing tantrums every
Right.
2 seconds. There's like affairs. I'm like, I am tired of watching these 45-year-old people not get their shit together. And they're our age, like they're in their mid 30s,
Yeah.
and then they're in the reboot in their 50s, and they're still doing the same shit. I'm like, I'm over all of you.
I still love them, but they drive me crazy.
Exactly. You know, classic, but oh my gosh. Okay, so about our love print numbers, I'd love for us to read them out loud. So, Arena, did you read 10?
I did not read 10 yet.
Okay, you go for it.
All right. So 10 is you're prioritizing bonding with a partner. You're ready to put forth the time and effort to build a partnership that works. Nurturing the bond with your partner to keep it strong is your priority. You realize that while falling in love is easy, staying in love requires dedication and intention, and you think it's more than worth it.
True. Love that. Yep. All right, Harmony.
All right, I got a 5, which is you're prioritizing making connections with people. You're seeking something with substance, but not concerned with any promise of permanence. You want something more meaningful than wild fun. So you'd like to leave things open. Your one condition is that whatever happens, it should matter.
Ooh.
And yeah, I don't know if that's like, I guess that to me that sounds like how I am in the fact that I'm like a single woman with like intimate friendships. But I think that I would want something a little bit more substantial with like an actual partner. But because I'm not coming from that place right now, that's not where I'm. That's not
It's
how
not
I
the mind.
answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense for like how I am now with like friendships and stuff. Very
Yeah,
open.
I feel like that's funny. It's almost like it knows you're single almost. But yeah, like it kind of that's exactly the answer that would be appropriate for where
True.
you are in the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also I'm not like into open relationships. I'm
Right.
not into like polyamory personally, like
Right.
I love
Yeah.
it for other people, but yeah.
Yeah, that
You
makes
would
sense.
want a monogamous situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then Genevieve, what did you get?
So I got an 8, and I think that they group maybe 1 through 10 some of the love print numbers with the same definition, because when Arena read hers out, it's exactly the same as mine.
Oh.
So I'm assuming maybe 8, 9, and 10 all have the same explanation.
Okay, that can make case. Yeah, I wonder what a 1 is. Like, or you know what I mean? Like the other side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I pulled up a click to see different results
Oh.
option, and it shows 1 through 3 has a little
Can you read it
cluster
for
that
us?
I'll read out for you guys. Yeah. It says, you're not really looking for anything in particular. You're seeking to discover whatever life has to give, your priority being the work you're doing on yourself, your job, school, your family, or just figuring out what you want. You're going with the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we did it. That's the love print results.
Really fun, guys.
That was great. I love that one. Okay, on to 16 personalities.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really excited for this because I haven't had mine change in a long time. So the fact that it did change and I feel like so seen, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm excited.
Do you want to start? Do you want to tell us what you used to be and what you have now?
Sure. Okay, as you guys, especially Stream knows, I've been an ENTJ for a really long time. And I think that's the commander. And I always felt like that really made me feel seen. It was really good. I'm in this new transition period of my life, as many of you guys know, and it definitely, I've been calling it my like research era, where I'm like going like into my like just of consuming and researching and kind of like isolated a bit. So mine has officially changed from ENTJ to INTJ. So I just went from extroverted to introverted, which makes sense. So I'm officially the architect. And I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had something similar. My E and my I are always like very close, so I swap back and forth, and same with my S and my N.
Mm.
But this time I tested as an ENFP,
Oh, what's
and the
the
last time I
name?
took was I, the campaigner.
The campaigner. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that.
The last time was INFP, but yeah, I identify as E, I, N, and S. So yeah.
Love that. Okay. Who else?
I got Brittany's previous one, Commander, ENTJ.
Let's go.
And I've never taken this before, so I don't have anything to compare it to,
Do you
but
guys have the A or the T after the letter?
A.
A.
I have a
ENTJ.
Wait, what's
have
the
a T.
difference? I don't know the differences.
So there's
I don't know that
turbulent
part
and
either.
assertive.
Oh,
So
so
turbulent
A.
is kind
and-
of like, So turbulent, I
Yeah.
think, is more like sensitivity, like more. There's more stuff. I'm sure we can read about it. But
Okay.
I was like,
And then
"That's
A is
About right
assertive.
so far. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then Jen, I'm sorry, you said, so you just got ENTJ and you have nothing to compare it to, but that's very exciting. I love the commander. I love reading about her. She's great.
Yeah, I read about her and I was like, okay, yeah, that fits.
I love that. I love that. By the way,
definitely fits.
I've made like almost every one of my siblings take these tests, and every time they're like, that's me. That sounds like me. And I was just like, I don't know what it is about these tests, but they kind of get it right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, Arena.
So, way back when I was an INTP T, then for a brief stint, like a couple years ago, I got INFP or
Mhm.
ENFP, one of those. And now I'm also ENTJ commander. So we're entering the commander era. I mean, I am playing Magic the Gathering commander version, so maybe that has something to do with it. So that's been interesting. But what's interesting is, to me also, I think I've also gotten ENTP before, but as of now, my E is actually very much on the E side. Like, it's not in the middle. It's very unbalanced. Like, my most balanced is the prospecting versus judging, the P and the J. I'm like more in the middle.
Wait, so
on.
say which one you are now?
I'm ENTJ.
ENT. Oh,
Commander.
you
I'm
are.
commander.
We both.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have a lot of commanding energy here, you guys.
Okay. We love to see it. Okay, that makes actually kind of a lot of sense, though. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so how do we want to do this one?
These can be pretty long. I think
Should we go down to
One of
personality
us-
traits or read the paragraph? What are you thinking?
I mean, I think we have time to read the paragraphs, and then Jen and I have the same one, so that's a 2-for-1 deal right there.
True. Okay, why don't one of you start then? Who wants to read? Arena.
Let me get to
I'll
the
do
right
it.
page. If you're already there, Arena, go ahead, because I'm just
I'm
looking
there.
through
Do it, girl.
my pages
All
here.
right. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living somebody else's life. Steve Jobs, allegedly. As an ENTJ commander, you are a natural-born leader with an unparalleled drive to turn your visions into reality. Your strategic mind excels at seeing the big picture, identifying long-term goals, and devising efficient plans to achieve them. You possess a rare combination of confidence, charisma, and decisiveness that draws others to you. I've never been commander, so this is new to me. That draws others to you and inspires them to follow your lead. Your approach to life is characterized by ambition and a relentless pursuit of success. You have an innate ability to organize people and resources, creating order out of chaos and transforming abstract ideas into concrete results. Your sharp intellect and rational decision-making skills allow you to navigate complex situations with ease, always keeping your eye on the ultimate objective. And then it goes into like, oh, I think you just scrolled down and it goes into your direct communication style is both a strength and a challenge. While it enables you to express your thoughts clearly and persuasively, it can sometimes come across as blunt or insensitive to those around you. You value efficiency and competence above all else, which can make you impatient with those who don't meet your high standards. You thrive in environments that challenge you and provide opportunities for growth and leadership. You are not content with the status quo and are always looking for ways to improve systems, processes, and people. Your ability to see potential and drive change makes you an invaluable asset in any organization or group, but it also means that you may struggle with mundane tasks or situations that don't align with your grand vision.
Okay, love it. Love it. Harmony, do you want to read yours?
Sure. So I'm an ENFPT, which is a campaigner. As an ENFP, you are a vibrant force of enthusiasm, creativity, and idealism. Your mind is a constant whirlwind of ideas and possibilities, each more exciting than the last. You approach life with an infectious energy that draws others to you, your charisma and genuine interest in people making you a natural connector and inspirational force. Your curiosity knows no bounds, and you have an insatiable appetite for new experiences and perspectives. This openness, combined with your vivid imagination, allows you to see potential and opportunity where others might not. You're not just a dreamer, though. You're a dreamer with a mission, driven by deep-seated desire to make the world a better place.
I love that. I love that. Okay, wait. So I guess should I read mine and then we'll go over how we feel about our results? Okay, let's do that. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm an INTJ. It says you possess a rare combination of vision and pragmatism. Your analytical mind consistently seeks to understand the world around you, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a desire to improve systems and ideas. You approach life with a strategic mindset, always looking for several steps ahead and planning for various contingencies. Your independent nature is one of your defining characteristics. You value your autonomy and often prefer to work alone, trusting your own judgment and abilities above all else. This self-reliance, combined with your intellectual prowess, allows you to tackle complex problems with confidence and innovation. Please, thank you. This test makes me feel good about myself. Okay, so who felt like they either did or did not fit them? What do you guys think?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah?
I also identify with the INFP, like I said, in the ESFP.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. Because I've taken these tests like a million times, so I've read these all.
What's interesting to me is how I changed from P, because I used to get P a lot, which I swear to God, is this like a Mandela effect, or did P used to be perceiving and now it's prospecting?
It used to be perceiving. This is not an official Myers-Briggs.
But I swear to God, on this specific website, it used to be perceiving. Or maybe not. I don't know, because I've taken it where it said perceiving. Anyway, so that's been interesting, is changing from either prospecting or perceiving to judging. And I'm not sure what changed with that, other than recently I've definitely been going on a journey to realign myself and or reintroduce myself to my child self, because this is like something my mother always did when I was a kid. She'd go like, Arena, go entertain the guests, and like that's still my job whenever I go over to my mom's and we have guests over and stuff. But it's interesting that throughout my whole life until recently, I've been getting I, and then also like P instead of J. But I know that like as a small child, I was very much always yapping. I'm a professional yapper, always yapping. I was very energetic, and I'm returning to that. Like I have so many hobbies, activities now that I'm doing as I'm, I guess, nourishing that part of myself. And I wonder, like, as you know, as we grow and as our lives change, like whether we're aligning to something more true, or if it is like an indication of actual change, like was I ever actually an INTP or an INFP or I don't know if I ever got INTJ, but like, was I ever actually that, or was that an unhealthy and or trauma brain expression of myself?
Yeah, I think my
questions.
introvert self was connected to my trauma brain. Like I needed to cocoon away from the world to like heal. Yeah. And
Mm.
now that I'm feeling like starting to feel better, I'm coming back to my extrovert self, which is what I have been previously. So, yeah,
Well,
I could
mhm.
see that.
Yeah, and I'll say when I was a ENTJ, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, you see yourself as introverted though." But I will say like the YouTube facade is sort of like we have to be extroverted. My whole life demanded that I was extroverted. I felt like it wasn't even an option to be sort of like admit you were introverted. And then we always like I have a brother whose personality feels introverted, but he's actually extroverted. And then I feel extroverted, but I'm actually introverted. So we always laugh that like, oh, people look at us and think they get it. But that's what was always so frustrating with sort of being seen properly. And I remember one time I said to him, I was like, well, you're introverted. He's like, no. He's like, I feel like no one gets me. Like, I'm not introverted. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, you're right. Like, I'm not seeing you. Like, I made that mistake. And so, as we've gotten older, now we're all like in our 30s and 40s, it's like, oh yeah, like I see what you mean to like when you say that, like you are like he's been to like 14 countries and he loves going on, he like volunteers and does all of these. And I'm like, girl, I don't want to do any of that. And it's just like and then when you realize it and you look at us, you're like, oh, how much we mistake a personality for introverted, extroverted, And so it's kind of interesting. And I will say, like, for myself, this is such a reflection of my current journey. And it's really nice to see because I also think there's a fear that people who are like, again, there's what's a better word for isolated? Like, not isolated, so negative.
Like solitude.
Like
I feel like solitude has like a good
Solitary, I
yeah,
guess,
solitary. It's like I'm going into
maybe
this
less-
journey and I don't want people to get the message that it's like a negative. I'm like, don't you see how beautiful like this journey I'm going on is? Like I'm about to like discover fucking electricity, bro. But like, and whatever, like I'm about to like discover something about myself. And I want this expresses it in like a really positive way. Like you're doing
Yeah.
something.
That's why I like personality tests in general. They like highlight the positives. You're like, yes, I am an awesome person, aren't I? Thank you.
What I liked about this one too is like even when it's highlighting, I guess, what could be more negative traits or challenges or whatever, it didn't make me feel like a terrible person about it.
Totally.
It was like, okay, that's something I
Yeah.
struggle with. Fair. But like I didn't walk away being like, ugh.
No, I think on one of my weaknesses, it was like high standards. I was like, okay, girl, too independent, stop it. Like, but it's true. Like there's always negatives to like, I get it when they say it, but part of you is like, thank you.
Right. Like mine was like, you can be very direct and that can sometimes hurt people's feelings. And I'm like, okay, well, like I don't mean to hurt their feelings, but like I'm gonna tell you what I need to tell you.
Yeah.
But I will say part of my adult journey has been learning how to be radically honest and still be kind.
Yeah.
Not that I think I was ever a cruel person, but that was definitely how you say it is become a lesson that I've learned a lot in my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder for people who have been or are commanders, because I've noticed this in myself, I'm actually pretty conflict averse with people who I am less close to. So the less close I am to someone, the less likely it is that I will bring something up if it bothers me or communicate with them. And that's something that I'm trying to grow into, is actually to be more assertive. And I think the result of that, as I've been growing, is that I've noticed that like it's an unfortunate thing that would happen is that then my negative emotions or negativity or criticisms would be reserved for people closest to me. And that ended up, I think, or ends up, in my opinion, being an issue where it's like, why can't I tell this stranger to their face, like, no, this process has been done wrong, or can you explain this to me? Why am I so conflict averse there? But then I'm, when I'm feeling irritable, that ends up coming out to those close to me. And so that's been something that as I've been growing, I'm like thinking about, because when the commander thing says, oh, your bluntness and directness can be hurtful to others, I'm thinking, okay, who, like, is this in the context of people close to me, or is this in the context of strangers? Because I'm not very assertive with strangers. But as I'm starting to kind of work on that and work on myself, I'm starting to notice, ooh, like the way I communicated during work here with my coworker was a little bit like, okay, like I could have worded that a little bit more gently, a little bit more considerate. I do still think it's better to communicate rather than not at all, which is what I used to do. But that's been an interesting, and I wonder for my commanders, have you ever struggled with that? And then also, Harmony, your kind of experience, like how do you navigate conflict or like bringing something up?
Well, I can start because that's actually an area that I have like has recently been illuminated to me as I'm going through therapy. Like, so I am um I have a big fawn response to my nervous system, especially when it comes to like interpersonal communication. So like if there's conflict interpersonally, I will like in the past I will have fawned. So I'm not one to be blunt. I'm one to be like, "Oh, let me, you know, do the emotional labor for you. Let me like soothe your nervous system to soothe my own system." And as I've healed and noticed that that is like not such a healthy pattern to get into. My lighting is getting weird right now. I've started to be a little bit different than that. I've started to stop doing that so much. Um, there we go. Sorry. Let me assess. My brain went away.
No
But yeah,
problem. No
yeah.
problem at all.
So now as I'm getting healthier and I'm more having a relationship with myself, I don't have this like safety need to make the other person like to like fawn at their nervous system to make them feel better. I can be more authentic to who I am, which sometimes means that people might take it as becoming more okay with conflict. But yeah, I've moved more towards I think being blunt. Although like I think for me a value is always going to be like being considerate of the other person's inner world and what they're experiencing from me. But I'm okay doing less of the emotional labor now, and I'm getting more and more okay with not doing that as well. So
In my experience, I spent my 20s really heavily climbing the corporate ladder. And it was a really masculine energy environment. And I was frequently the only female in the room and in the conversations. And I think that I possibly overcompensated for that as a younger person by bringing this aggression of like I had almost like my defenses up that I would be underestimated and that I wouldn't be taken seriously. And so I felt that I had to sort of really show like I'm a commander, like I deserve to be here. I'm, worthy. And I will say that I feel less like I need to externally prove myself as I've gotten older, even though I do still have a lot of the same traits. I would say if I had taken this early, I probably would have also gotten a commander earlier in my life, I would guess. I feel like that's always been a big drive for me. And my professional life is 100% in line with the way the commander works.
yeah.
Even, since leaving corporate. But I do think that I have had to learn how to tailor my message a little bit, and I've learned that you can be more effective with a softer touch in a lot of instances.
Yeah, I think what Irina said earlier was so relatable too. Like, as aggressive and assertive as I am, I'm also like, I don't want to like fight everybody I meet also. So like I tend to be more like conflict comfortable with people that I know deeply than people I don't know. And I think as a YouTuber, it's really, really strange because like sometimes I'm so aggressive on stream. And then when I talk to people that I've talked about, they're like, why are you not aggressive with me now? And I'm like, oh, because now we're like talking. Like, I'm fine to be aggressive when it's me and my audience and we're having fun and we're like, you know, memeing at your expense. But also if I'm in front of you, like, well, now the context is different. And now I'm going to try to like hear you out. We're going to try to problem solve. And then it can feel like I'm avoiding conflict. And maybe I am, honestly. Like, maybe I'm like, well, look, bro, I don't know you like that. You know, if my mom called me, like, I'd rather have conflict with my mom than you. Like, I don't know you. And so I think I relate to that a lot where surprisingly, like, I am pretty like, okay, like I have an attitude, but I want like the conflict of, you know what I mean? If I'd rather problem solve with you if given the opportunity.
I think that's partially why. And like when I started content creation, I wanted to avoid talking about other creators because I don't want that to even be a thing. And that's, you know, like I don't want it to be like, if I'm like, I want it to be so where if I say something, it can be like I'm also saying it to them. And that's been something that's been, I'd say, consistent, because it's not to say that I'm not going to talk or have opinions about someone, but I find that for me, I prefer then to talk about it with like in private, because I think everyone has thoughts about other people in private. And I think some people think that that's fake, right? Like there's this idea that if you wouldn't want to say an opinion to someone's face, that's fake. But you know, sometimes an opinion about someone is your own thing and your problem, and it doesn't mean that this other person needs to hear it, and then you can like process it, right? So that's been something that I've been thinking about too, as I'm posting more or creating more and stuff, and thinking about like what I want my presence on the internet to be.
Yeah. I think it runs the risk too, like I'll have this thing where I'll talk like, because when you give your opinion, it's always nice to have like an example of why you hold the opinion. But then if you talk about people, then they're like, hey, you talked about me. And I'm like, okay, but like, I don't want to talk to you about it. Like I don't want to talk to you about it though. You were just the example I wanted to use. But like also you are talking about people. So it's like really strange. It's like a cool thing to be like, here's a real life example. But also that is a real person with a real life. So it is kind of like, it is interesting. Yeah. That balance.
That's why I like Reddit stories, because they could be fake, they could be real, but either way, they're mostly anonymous, and you can find situations that are illustrated and that other people have experienced, but it also detaches it from any real person's face or actions or character. But they can also be quite limiting, right? Like, and sometimes, you know, people are like, well, that's a fake situation. Versus if you have like versus if you know that this real person has gone through something, done something, it becomes easier to be like, see, this stuff does happen, and this is what that looks like. So yeah, it's definitely it's a difficult balance, especially like with your genre, Brit, where you're like a commentary, you know, commentary philosophy, right? So that's a tough line to walk.
Well, we're moving into more TV shows coming in 2025 to kind of help with that. But then that's still real people. Like that's still real people. They're just like maybe further away from me, so maybe they won't see the video. But like if I keep talking about YouTubers, which I mean I will do, but I'll try to like make it YouTubers who maybe will never see it. I'm not trying to like always fight everybody, but also your life's so messy. I want to talk about it. You know, like. But yeah, you know, Netflix is going to produce some good shows this summer and like this spring. So hopefully I can use that as better examples. But yeah, sorry. Okay. We kind of got off track there, but like talking about conflict and stuff. Yeah, it is interesting, like how our personalities play a role in even our jobs or like our decisions to do certain things moving forward. So I'm not like that was a good reflection is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Do we want to go down to personality traits? Yeah. And does it look the same for everybody? Does it start with energy, mind, nature, tactics, identity?
I have gotten onto the wrong page. I need to find myself back to where my results are, but give me a moment and I will get there.
Okay, cool. So personality traits. Go ahead, Harmony.
I'm not sure if that's what mine looks like.
Okay. What do you?
Section 1. It's like here.
I did not. I didn't unlock anything. Like
no, me neither. Me neither.
I didn't unlock anything. It's just like right there.
Yeah, it looks just like that. Yep. Okay, you guys see that?
Yeah. I got it. Okay.
Sorry, can I see that one more time?
Yeah. Let me lower the brightness. right there.
Yeah, the little graphs.
So you
Oh,
you
why don't I
scroll
see
right under the
that?
picture of Napoleon or whatever.
So this is like the top of mine where it just
Yeah.
has like, is
Yeah.
that the right
Okay,
page?
yeah, and then
Okay.
scroll.
So, mhm.
After your big paragraph, it should be the first thing that comes up.
So across the top it says like introduction, strengths and weaknesses, romantic relationships.
Oh,
Is that what
Go
you're seeing
so
across the top?
do you see a drop down menu? It says number 1 personality traits.
No.
What? Oh no.
I think you're way at the bottom. What happens if you scroll?
Maybe I'm
all
in
the
the
way to
wrong
top?
spot. Sorry.
Like, are you on this homepage where it says? Sorry, I turned the brightness back up on my phone.
I know it's okay. So I'm on the homepage where it's the Commander ENTJ personality, and it
Does
says
it say your personality type is Commander?
no. That's
you're not
probably
on
what
your
I'm
results.
missing.
You're not on your
Okay.
results. Okay.
Okay.
Did we lose them? Can you get them back or no?
I can get them back.
Okay,
If
good.
someone wants to start,
We'll
then I
start.
will get mine back.
Okay, yeah. Who wants to start?
So we're just like reading the percentages.
Yeah, let's go through it because like that's what I'm curious about. Like the first one for me says energy, extroverted to introverted. Where you guys are. Like I'm at 72% introverted.
Mm. Yeah, I'm 51% extroverted, which is right on. I'm like always right, very close to the middle for my
Wait.
E and my I.
Oh, Harmony,
Yeah.
what was your result? ENFP?
ENFP T.
ENFP.
Yeah.
ENFPT.
Mhm.
I'm 78% extroverted.
So
Oh,
in my email, I
Yeah.
have that percentage breakdown, even though I still can't find that little chart, but it
Okay.
does show me 69% extroverted.
Ooh,
Oh.
magic number. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, love it. How about for the next one? Mind, intuitive versus observant. I'm at 79% intuitive.
75% intuitive.
68% intuitive.
Mm.
78% intuitive. And was O ever a
Oh.
letter? What is the
Yeah.
opposite letter of it? Is it it's
Um,
intuitive versus observant? Was that always the
Observation.
case?
Observational, I think?
Sensing.
Sensing.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 78% intuitive, which is the same number as my extroversion.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so nature, we've got thinking versus feeling. I'm at 85% thinking.
Oh.
Ooh.
I'm 88% feeling.
I love
I have a
that.
69%
Very accurate.
thinking.
Oh,
69. Let's go.
Nice. You like
I got
that
a lot of
number.
those. Apparently, that's a good number for me.
Yeah.
I'm 60% thinking.
oh, okay. Okay, and then the next one, tactics. So we're judging and prospecting. Prospecting. Okay, so 76% judging, which makes sense. We gay judge here.
Yeah.
I am 54%, so that's my closest to center.
Mm.
I'm 65% prospecting.
Mm.
I'm 57% judging, and I think we should click on the little question marks. 'cause
Question
they
marks.
Talk about do you see the little next to
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we should go through that too.
Okay.
Because I'm interested to hear what the prospecting and
So
Okay.
for
we
the
all got intuitive.
prospecting,
None of us got sensing, but
it says you're likely very adaptable, easygoing, and flexible, prioritizing spontaneity over stability.
Oh, okay. And I'm 76%. That was the judging, right?
yeah.
It says you're likely organized, decisive, and thorough, valuing structure and planning over spontaneity.
Mm-hmm.
See, okay, this is the problem that I have with this test. I feel like it depends, like what my answer is always depends on if my ADHD brain is in the seat or if my autism brain is in the seat.
True.
Because this is very much my ADHD brain is in the seat. the
True.
ENFP.
True.
I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
do feel like depending on my mental health status, like if I
Yes.
was, because I do struggle with anxiety a lot.
Mhm.
And so if I was in a more anxious mindset when I took this, I'm sure I would get at least instead of the A at the end, I probably would prompt the T at the end, just depending on where I'm feeling mentally there.
I could see that. So does your guys' say something different then, Arena and Genevieve?
No. So not for judging.
Not for judging. Judging is
for,
the
like,
same.
Organized, decisive. Mhm.
Okay. So the last one, and we can go back and read the question marks, but this one's identity. So assertive versus turbulent, and I'm 74% assertive.
I'm 76% assertive.
Ooh.
79% turbulent.
I'm 56% assertive, so this is my most in the middle result.
Okay.
Okay, so for assertive, it says you're likely self-assured, even-tempered, and resistant to stress, refusing to worry too much. Harmony, yours would have been different, right? Do you want to read yours?
Yep. Mine says you're likely self-conscious, sensitive to stress, success-driven, perfectionistic, and eager to improve. And yeah, that's like my ADHD brain right there for you. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that because I actually think it's a real phenomenon with neurodivergence, especially if you're ADHD, you have like two modes of being. And when I talk to my ADHD friends, we like, we talk about like the differences between when we
makes sense that sometimes I test, those four are so interchangeable depending on. Yeah,
totally.
But my feeling perceiving is always the same. Feeling prospecting. Yeah.
That makes sense. So if we go back up to the first one and it says like introverted versus extroverted. So the introverted one and the extroverted one will say the same thing for all of us, right? So, okay. So mine says introverted. It says you're likely prefer fewer yet deep and meaningful social interactions and feel drawn to calmer environments. Who wants to read the extroverted?
So
I have it right here. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Rena,
it says you likely get energized by social interaction and tend to openly express your enthusiasm and excitement.
Okay, I love that. Harmony, did you get intuitive on the next one?
Yep.
You want to read it?
Yep. Intuitive says you're likely very imaginative and open-minded, focusing on hidden meanings and distant possibilities. And that's very true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love that. And then the next one is like thinking versus feeling. Who got thinking? Who got feeling?
I got feeling.
I got thinking.
I got thinking
as well.
Okay.
Right.
Harmony, you want to give us feeling?
Yeah. So for feeling, it says you likely value emotional expression and sensitivity, prioritizing empathy, social harmony, and cooperation.
Perfect. Okay. And then for thinking says you likely focus on objectivity and rationality, putting effectiveness above social harmony. Okay, interesting. And then did we do judging? We read that one, right? We started off with that one.
And we did assertive and turbulent. But what's interesting is in this group, we don't have any S's. We don't have any sensors. We have all intuitive.
Oh.
I wonder what the sensing one little question mark would say. And also thinking about it from, I'm sorry, Britt, a Dungeons and Dragons perspective, because my fiance and I were talking about like another way of looking at personalities is thinking about what your stats would be on your character sheet.
Sure.
So where do you get a +1? Like commoner is like constitution, which is like your health. It's 10s across the board. You don't add anything to it. And we were talking, and there's this D&D stat, wisdom. Within wisdom, there is perception and insight. And him and I were talking, and he is much higher perception than me, in that he will notice like new shit that's been like they're like, oh, that's a new car parked on the road. I've never noticed stuff like that. But I'm very insightful in that, like, I can watch a movie and predict what's going to happen, like, and analyze media in that way and situations and stuff. So we both have like, that high wisdom stat, but he has more perception. I have more insight. And that's been a fun thing to do. I kind of want to make, I kind of want to see what our character sheets would look like too, if we have the time, but Brittany would probably fall asleep.
No, but that's cool. That's a good example of I like that. That's cool.
So I wonder if a high perception person would get sensing. Like a high perception person would get sensing, but a high insight person would get intuitive.
It reminds me of like I play these social deduction games with some of my friends online. And I am always like totally using my intuition to like know what I think, whereas other people use all the facts and the different things of the game, the logic, I'm like, does not compute for me. I am totally using that gut instinct. Definitely. I use it in I work a lot too, actually. So
Okay, and speaking of work, the next section is about our jobs. So I don't know how much of we want to read out loud. It's like 2 small paragraphs, and then I think we can go down to strengths and weaknesses. But I don't know if the first paragraph I think is the most interesting and kind of like would be good for us to read out loud. What do you think? Are we open to that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So like for me, it says, in your professional life, you thrive on intellectual challenges and the opportunity to implement your innovative ideas. You excel in roles that allow you to utilize your strategic thinking and problem solving skills, often gravitating towards fields of like science, technology, or business strategy. Your ability to see the big picture while also attending to crucial details makes you a valuable asset in any organization. And I would say like that's much more reflective of my life moving forward. Though in a lot of my life, I think I was much more in the artist like bubble. But I think it wasn't serving me because it was never allowing me to like do this part of my life that I think I'm much more interested in as I age. But I will say like, I find that fascinating, that idea, because I've never been much of a systems girly, but I think that was a lie I told myself so I could be an artsy girly. But I think like the truth is like I cared about systems, but I didn't know how to do both. And now I'm just kind of like moving art to the side a little bit and focusing on my systems. But art has served me as well. Like being more intuitive and being more like loosey goosey has like absolutely served me. So kind of interesting.
yes.
Yeah.
That is another thing, again, with the neurodivergence and the ADHD, like the systems versus the stimulation or the art, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think so much of the difficulty is like existing in one or the other, where now I'm finally learning to bring them into like synergy with each
Love
other.
that. Actually,
Yeah.
one of the, maybe you'll relate to this, and maybe Jen will too. One of the things that I'm working on is how do I systemize OF? How do I systemize my art to be like this thing that is like, you know, cool and
Yeah.
I can digest, but also like artistic. And I want to up my level of content too. Like I want to really like think about what I'm doing in a much, just like in a different way. So even with that, YouTube is getting its own transformation, but so is OF. Like it is not being neglected. And then when I think about it, it's such a different vibe, right? It's like, how do I do that? So I'm excited to see how I can implement those changes.
And it's the same with me, and maybe Arena can attest to this as well with doing the artist's way. It's almost like learning to like get into a system of your life that affords your creativity. Like the two really do kind of go together, yeah. Or
Yeah.
they can, I should say, yeah.
That's so funny. Is everyone doing that book? Like I'm like a little bit way through it myself, and then I paused it. So I was like, I'm like, what is this? Like, did we all just like, end up syncing up? That's so funny.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
That's
if you're
so
a
funny.
fan.
That's hilarious, actually. Okay, so who wants to go next? Who wants to share?
Jen and
I
I
will.
will have the same.
Yeah.
We'll have the same, and to be fair, I'm having a difficult time navigating this because I do think I clicked out of my actual results. So if you want to read that little paragraph, I have like just the whole like career paths and workplace habits in front of me, but I don't have like a summary version.
Okay.
Okay. So that one is, your career is more than just a job. It's a platform for you to exercise your leadership skills and make a significant impact. You're naturally drawn to roles that allow you to strategize, make important decisions, and guide others towards a common goal. Whether you're running your own business or climbing the corporate ladder, you're always aiming for the top, driven by an unwavering belief in your abilities and a desire to leave your mark on the world.
Do you think that's
and I
accurate?
I'm going to let Jen answer that first because I have thoughts, but I read it out loud. So Jen, go for it. And then I have.
Okay. Thank you for reading that. I do appreciate it. That really connects with me. And I feel like early on, I knew that I was a good leader and I was good with business and I was good at managing teams. I did excel in a corporate environment in that way. However, what was really missing was feeling like I was making a positive impact on the world. I didn't feel like the purpose of it all was there. So I think that in recent years, in 2017, when I stepped away from like the family-friendly corporate world of Disney and kind of went more into just diving into the adult world, I've been able to utilize those skills in a way that does feel like I'm having a positive impact on the world, because I think that the field that I'm in now, even though it still has a lot of crossover in the way that like I think about business and stuff like that, I do feel like I'm able to educate and provide outlets in a way that is more impactful for people, and that feels much more satisfying.
Love that. Love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
For me, what's interesting is that my day job is like not my passion at all. And I'm doing the artist way, as Harmony mentioned. I am on week 6 of it. And I find that it's actually like in my day job, when I'm asked to train someone on something, I'm like, ugh, I'm like, ugh, like I'm asked to lead, and I'm just like, okay, fine. But when it comes to like, I'm in this book club doing the artist way with a bunch of artsy girlies, with a bunch of photographers, models, painters, like just all artist women, and I love it. I love like helping my friend organize these book clubs. I'm like the project manager of the group. I'm like, all right, what are we doing? What time is it? Like suddenly these leadership qualities that I know are in me, they start to seem more real, right? And I've been talking about actually going into business with some of these girls and like being in an industry that I actually care about. So that's interesting that I got this result before I've really solidified my career fully in the arts. Um, and it's also interesting that before I was doing the artist way, I was consistently getting different results. Usually with an
Mm.
I, usually with, not the J, instead I would get the P. And so I wonder how that has influenced it too, that now that I'm dedicating more time to the arts and to creating, that now maybe this commander is coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, since
That's
both
so cool.
Yeah, since both you guys, I think, are more maybe in a traditional work sense, now that you're both like, it's interesting, like the switch almost. Like, I don't know if that's realistic to say out loud. I feel like I never was a professional, even though I had jobs. Like, I was trying to be a professional nanny, but I didn't work in corporate, and I couldn't have sat at a desk, and I certainly couldn't work in a building, and I didn't do good at group activities. But at the same time, I think I allowed myself to be so free with what I was doing and how I was making money that now I'm like, I'm going to grow up a bit. I want to be more something. And like, it feels like almost we're having like an opposite experience in a sense. And I kind of like that. That's so cool. So we still experience both, but at just different
Yes.
stages of our life.
And something
Yeah.
that my friend who's running the book club, she's a professional photographer, amazing. If you go to my Instagram, her and I collaborate together a lot, so you'll see her work. And she told me, you got the financial and life stability before exploring your art, whereas a lot of artists, they go the other way around. They like stumble through life, they're creating, but they like don't have the societal basics figured out. And in some sense, sometimes I feel on this journey, I'm like, oh man, but like I was always a responsible person. So why couldn't I feel like I could have pursued art and gotten this financial stability as well? Why did I have to sacrifice that part of myself so early on, right? And so that's been an interesting thing to contend with also.
Love that. Harmony, did you want to go?
Sure. So for my career path, it says, in your professional life, you thrive in environments that value creativity, flexibility, and human connection. Your ideal career is not just a job, but a calling, a platform where you can express your unique gifts, explore new ideas, and make positive impact on others. You excel in roles that allow you to use your exceptional communication skills and tap into your boundless creativity. However, the conventional 9-to-5 grind can feel stifling to your free-spirited nature. You may struggle with strict routines, hierarchies, or jobs that involve a lot of repetitive tasks.
Wow, they just attacked your autism, bro.
Yeah, they did. That's why I'm like, yes, it sounds like my ADHD
They
side.
just attacked your
neurodivergent. Yes. Your challenge is to find a career path that offers enough variety and meaning to keep you engaged, while also providing the structure necessary for long-term success. Your ability to inspire and connect with others is a valuable asset in any field. The key is finding the right outlet for your talents.
Love
So
that.
that's like
Yeah.
so true in my job. Like, yes, okay, at the best aspects of my job, this is reflected. It's not always like that, but Yeah. I will say I do struggle with hierarchies. That's like the PDA totally. The more that I become mature and like disciplined in my habits and stuff, the much more I rely on routines.
Mm-mm.
I don't like them imposed upon me externally. I like them to come from internal, like this is something I'm doing for myself because my system needs it, not because someone else is saying you have to show up from 9 to 5, you know? It's like, no, this makes sense for like how I show up in the world. And so I'm going to brush my teeth twice a day. I'm going to like do my exercise, I'm going to stay disciplined to these things that matter. But
Mm.
when I was younger and not so much taking personal responsibility for my life, like I was just like fly by, like totally free spirited. Like I had no time for routines or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I will
That's interesting to see.
Yeah, and I will say I need a different word for like grow up. I think structured is better. Like I want to be more structured. I want to be more like purposeful or thoughtful in a sense. Like I went from like God, I loved lockdown, bro, because I was high all the time. I was having so much fun. I was getting I was
loved it
streaming.
too.
I was streaming high. Does anyone remember high stream Britney?
I love high streaming
Whoa,
Britney. Like
she feels so far
that was
away
how
now.
I met you, girl. Like
Girl, I haven't been her in so long. And that's what's crazy is like, yeah. And then I remember the day that I was like, I guess I'm moving to Europe, so I can't get high. So I guess I'll utilize this for something. And I remember the day even before I moved to Europe, I was like, I won't get high on stream. And like, I remember in these, like, but it's not like I ever regretted it. It was such a vibe. Like, it was so good, you know? But now, as I move forward, I think I need all the tools accessible to me to be a little bit more structured. Or even when I was first getting diagnosed with stuff a few years ago, I had this nutritionist. Like, it was really hard working with her, not because of her, but because I didn't know how to communicate to her. Like, you're making demands of me and you're triggering my brain. And I didn't know how to communicate to her that, like, this is killing me. And she had told me, like, take everything out of your diet, gluten-free, all this stuff. I was like, yeah, and like transitions. Now my partner pointed it out there because I'm eating gluten-free now, and they're like, why are you having so much fun with this when it was so hard for you a few years ago? And I was like, because I'm choosing to do it because this is my idea.
It's like an authentic to you sort of thing because it's coming from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
and I'm listening to my body and I'm listening to my, the wisdom of the people around me who are like,
looks the same, but it's completely different.
Experience. And so now I'm just like, yeah, I'm having a great time of it. And even like moving into this transition online, if my audience is an example, like I always joke with the audience, if you demand, I will quit right now. I'll delete my channel. Don't tell me what to do. I mean that. Like I literally have I'm like, don't rush me. I will make the decision when I'm ready. And now that I'm ready to make this decision, if somebody has suggested it to me 6 months ago, I would have been like, I will serve. Don't tell me what to do. But now that it's like my idea and also the timing, it is time. When you're in a transition, if you guys, I go through transitions every so often, like they're a very routine part of my life because I'm always like changing and growing. I have to accept the fact that I'm like, I'm going to become a butterfly, like from Bug's Life. I need time to transform from a caterpillar to a butterfly. It just takes me time. So people thinking like, well, if you know the answer, just change. I'm like, girl, sit down, girl. As if that ever worked. You ever gone to therapy? You think you just get the lesson, you change overnight? Like, give me a second. But I think this comes into play with like where you are in your life. And I love the idea of it reflecting back, like reading this and having it like, oh, this is where I'm at right now. And again, this is just for fun. I think some people take these personality quizzes like very, very serious. And I just like want to point out like the point of this is to give yourself another tool, not to like revolve your whole life around some personality quiz.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's holding up a little mirror of where you're at now, rather than making decisions based off your result. Your result is because of the decisions you've been making, if that makes sense. Your
that's
result
a
is because of
very
how
good
you've been living.
Yeah.
way to look at it. That's a really good lens.
So you shouldn't base your life off the result, but rather your result will be a reflection of where your life is at now. I was gonna ask for my PDA girlies because it's so fascinating to me, because something that I've been struggling with in the artist's way is prioritizing my needs and time for myself rather than others' demands or asks of me. And so I've been on like an opposite journey as well, but like getting to a balance of both, of like like understanding that if we live in community, if we live in society, there are some things, there are some demands that are going to be made of you, and you have to integrate them, but also balancing it with prioritizing yourself. And then I mentioned that, it's much easier for me to have conflict with those close to me. It's also now easier for me to be like, well, I'm going to prioritize myself, but then again, harder to prioritize myself against the demands of non-inner circle. It's harder for me to say no now, and that's something that I'm also working towards, is like saying no to things and to people that are not in my inner circle, but that I'm scared of having more, like, not conflict, but like disagreement with, or like
Right.
underlying needs with, right? So that's been a journey as well, but in an opposite way, because I've never really struggled with PDA or like demand avoidance. In fact, the opposite, where I'm like, okay, and then I go do whatever somebody tells me to do.
I will say, like, I don't know if you relate to this, Harmony, but like my partner will trigger my PDA. So it's not just like the world, like it's even people
trigger my
closest.
PDA.
Yeah.
I myself
No,
trigger my
same.
PDA.
No, literally
Yes.
same. Where I'm like, man, I really fucking my own worst enemy right now.
Yes. Like, for real, that's why I can, so like when I do the internal work and I like really look internal when I'm having those triggered moments from a demand, like I really see that it is these two systems at war with each other. Literally the like routine, rigid, seeking versus the novelty dopamine seeking system. That like they just need to come together and like find a synergy. And so it's like, because I have that kind of a system, it's so important for me to live by my values. That's really what it is. Like, I don't fucking have time. Sorry. I don't have time for, you know what I mean, anybody else's BS to come in. I don't. I'm fighting my own internal battle, all the time. So.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. Like I going to Arena, curious, are you focused on being a community member right now, or being like a focus on Arena?
Right now, I'm trying to do the journey of focusing on me, because I have been focused on being a community member my whole life, ever since I can remember. It's how I chose my major in college. It's how I chose my career. And so now that I have like this stability, I'm, opening myself up to the artist's way and just trying to discover who I am outside of being a community member. And this is something that I've thought about a lot too, is that I've never been single in my whole adult life. And something that I was, a little bit worried about, even though I know I'm with my soulmate, is that, oh, well, who would I be if I wasn't in a relationship? But now I know. I'm discovering it, and I'm being given the space to discover it. So that's been really wonderful, because now I know exactly, and that's been great. Or I'm discovering it, but I can predict. I can predict where it's going to go.
Okay, that's interesting,
That's
because
good.
yeah. Well, sorry, Jen, do you want to say something?
No, I just was like encouraging. Like, I'm really glad that you have the support to be able to explore that now, even within a partnership. I think that's really awesome.
I think what stands out to me is the transition out of being a community member into like an individual kind of person, like focusing on like the solo journey. Because you're right, like if you chose your career, if the way that you function and all of that stuff had to do with that external relationship, then it's like a transition you're in. And then people might feel a way about it. Like even in my small transition where I'm going from not a community member to I already left the community member a long time ago, but even as an individual, I was much more available. And now I'm less available to people. And I'm also meeting people less in the middle now for where they're at, because like it's not in the middle. It doesn't feel like I'm meeting them in the middle. It feels like I'm going way too much towards them. So even like, for the next 4 years, it feels like I'm moving more in a direction of actual, like, not monkhood, but like not hermit, but like what's this, like a
Solitude.
yeah, but like a solo, like a there's a word I want that I can't think of. Nomad, like almost like a nomad, like an intellectual nomad, where I want to journey into academia. I want to journey into books. I want to like, I heard that you can go to like Harvard and classes and get their like syllabus, like everything that they're going to, and I'm just going to fucking go through all that shit. Like that's it. The next 10 years, nobody talk to me. I'm going to go to school to the best of my ability without going to school, you know? And like, that's the thing I want to do. And that means like, I am going to get lost where I can't take people with me. And that might feel like abandonment to those people, but I think what I'm going to do is like even transition them into this, like, you can't just call me. Like, I'm like, you can, but like, you can't depend on me the way I would have before. And like, that's really weird for people, but I think it's about being a community member on the outskirts. I still don't want to abandon my community, but I know they'll be okay without me. So it's weird because like, I think we get into our heads, our communities will die without us and they'll be fine. You know,
they will. And what's interesting too is like, I mean, I've always held this belief, the birds of a feather thing. And low key, I think that right now I'm in a period where I'm setting an example for my community. So
Smart.
It's not that I'm abandoning them. I know that they're all little artists too. And I see it in them. And in fact, that's something that my best friend and I, when we went to the festival, like it was her festival, it was so amazing. But you know, something that really bonds us like sisters is the inner artists that we both have. And we were both on a journey where we were disconnected from our creativity for the longest time. And so I started the Artist Way, and now she's joining the book club, and my other friend's joining the book club. And my roomie, he like shared some doodles that he did with me, and now he's like writing a little bit too.
Nice.
Like, all right. So I'm getting the community.
Your commander influence is affecting your community. Say, like, that's cool.
I think like societies and communities always benefit from those people who like do that kind of like intense work.
Totally.
Even like talking about neurodivergence, like society benefits so much from like the special interests of like autistic people who like become experts in whatever they're interested in. You know what I mean? Like we see this all the time. So it's not even like, oh, I'm separate from community. It's just a different way of, you know, participating in community that's more,
I think it's about
in your tunnel. Yeah.
I think it's always like we want to know ourselves, but not at the expense of like one thing over the other. So like, it's like, I want to be a community member, but not at the expense of myself. And I want to be for myself, but not at the expense of my community. And I think sometimes humans have such an extreme thing about their brains where they go like, well, if you're not for the community, then you're like going to destroy the community. It's like, okay, no, everybody relax. Like we're going to improve ourselves to add to community. Like if everyone improved themselves, we would be contributing to community, not away from community. I think there's for some weird extreme version in people's brains, people just have like this can only end negatively. And I'm seeing like this can only be positive as long as it's not the expense of the other. And we're all growing in a healthy direction. Like my dream is to like, I would love to take the people at the worst part of society and lift them up. Like if I could do it with my muscles, I would just like lift them up. If we could just lift society up like 10%, like the world would be so much better off. But like, we can't even get there because we don't even know how to lift ourselves up, let alone like systematically lift the world up. So I think throughout life, I think Arena, you said it earlier, I feel like we go through life and at different places of our life, whereas it may be reverting back to our childhood, who knows, but maybe for this part where in our life, we're in these seasons, and those seasons add to a much larger picture than we're even willing to even comprehend, right? Because we're only here for a second, but for that second, it's pretty long in terms of how it impacts other people. Like, I never want to go back and redo my life because I'm not sure how I've impacted other people for good or bad. And if I go back and change something, did I just ruin something for somebody else, or did I change their trajectory? Or like, you know, it almost worries me. But so in some ways, I'm grateful for what I did, mistakes and all, because I know the positives, like they had an impact, and I know that rippled out, right? So it ripples into community when we work on ourselves.
It does. And I think too, like people get really uncomfortable when they see somebody living a different sort of life that's like very different from the way that they find meaning. And I think maybe it is very, I don't know, like allistic or neurotypical, you know, to be more socially oriented. Whereas like, I feel like I'm an extrovert. I'm very social, but the way that I come about it is just so much different. And it's so from my own place of like sitting on my own self seat, you know, of consciousness, and not like, and, you know, like totally joining in, if that makes sense. So it's just a different way of doing it. And so like for me, the way that I find meaning, so much more meaning, is like that internal world and that internal relationship. Yeah. And then going out from there into the world. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Any last thoughts on this train?
Not for me.
Okay, so the next part of the next part is your strengths and weaknesses. I think that's kind of interesting. Do we just want to read them out, but like maybe not the whole? I don't know if we want to read everything out or just like name them. That might be interesting. Genevieve, do you even have access to this part?
So I
We will
can
have
pull
the
up the
same-
strengths and weaknesses for like the ENTJ in general. It's not like my specific results.
Is it
but it's
specific to
probably
any
the
of
same
us, or
thing.
is it all the same?
No,
Is
it's
it
all
just
the same.
the same? Okay, perfect.
Okay, great. So like then Arena or Genevieve, do you want to start? Jen?
So what I'm seeing as our strengths are efficient, energetic, self-confident, strong-willed, strategic thinkers, charismatic, and inspiring. And then
Is
they do
that
break each of those
on-
down.
Is that on 16 personalities? Because on mine it says natural leadership, strategic vision, process optimization.
So
and
I'm probably on a different page. I am on the commander personality page, but
I wonder
clearly
if
I'm
it
seeing
is
something
like
different than what you're seeing.
yeah, I wonder if it is personal to our results.
Oh shoot, maybe.
I think it might be because it says your strengths, your weaknesses, not ENTJ or
true.
not IN whatever,
Yeah.
not INTJ
and I
Yes.
must have
specific.
like closed the window or something because I don't have like my specific.
Can you go in your history?
Yeah,
that
let me
might
look through
open-
that.
Okay, but no pressure because I know it must be frustrating to lose the results and then
But let me see if I can find it. I'm gonna
Okay,
go back.
perfect. Okay, Arena, do you want to read yours again?
Sure. So my strengths are natural leadership, strategic vision, process optimization, and it says ambitious. But I think ambition would probably read better than.
How do you feel about
ambitious.
that?
I think it definitely works. I mean, I would agree. I'm curious to look at my old results and see how I feel about those.
Okay. Harmony, do you want to share yours?
Yes, it's so funny. I was just reading them and I'm like, this is so my ADHD brain. Like, I wonder, I have several things like, okay, is it because I just spent time at home with my family and so I'm like back into that like state of mind, or like I'm going on a THC break as well. And so I really think because of the way my brain works that like not smoking every day has like really made my ADD flare up, which is funny because I could see it going the other way. But anyway, my strengths are, oh, did we just do strengths or weaknesses?
You just
too?
strengths. Start there.
Okay. My strengths are highly empathetic, bringing excitement, authentic communication, and adaptability.
Ooh, I love that. Do you just in that you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, highly empathetic. I'm also seeing that as like probably a weakness as well. So, it's also
Interesting.
true. Yeah.
I will say I did the Enneagram a while back, but I did it with like all of my life in mind. I want to redo it with only the last 5 years in mind during my healing years, because I think I'll get a different result. And I think that's what's interesting about these things is and you have to be, look, if you take this test because you want a particular result, in the same way like anyone else could, you could manipulate it, sure. But if you're really honest, I think that's what's so cool about taking these is like you're supposed to use it to learn something about yourself, not to deceive yourself. Then I think you have a chance of like, oh, how do I feel about this? And like, what do I want to work on? So like I read my strengths and I'm like, let's go. Like, okay, so my strengths are strategic vision, analytical thinking, independent thinker, and efficiency. And I'm like, yeah, those are all like my favorite words. And like, that's exciting to me. But I don't think I manipulated the test to give me my results because I also got a different result than I usually get. So I'm like, oh, like I got a different result this time, which tells me that I was open to the change. In the same way, let me tell you, when I took my Harry Potter test again and I did not get Slytherin, I was pissed.
What did you get?
I got Hufflepuff and I was like, ew. I'm just kidding.
I go
That's
between
facts.
those two
That's what I am.
also. I go between Slytherin and Hufflepuff as well, but I feel
I'm
like
totally
I choose
a
to be a
Hufflepuff.
Slytherin
You know?
more than a Hufflepuff.
Okay, but in my defense, I've also gone Ravenclaw, but I never get Gryffindor, and I think that says a lot. I'm okay with this. You know what I mean? Because they all got their,
Gryffindor's the most boring.
Yeah, let's be real. Let's be real. But like, okay,
Mhm.
something like that's kind of funny because I remember thinking like, I want my result. Like I want my Slytherin because that's how I feel. But I never feel that way when I'm taking these kinds of tests. I'm always just like, I wonder how much I've changed. Like, I wonder what it means. And again, like, you can decide how you feel. I really think people are categorizable. Like, I don't think we're that unique. Like, I think we are unique, but we're not that unique, which is kind of comforting. So I actually think like things like astrology, instead of thinking of them as literally real, I think the categorization system is actually pretty good, but that doesn't mean it's always factual. I think it's just a reflection of how cool we are as a species. Like we can be in categories, like how cool. I think it's great. I think it's like relieving that I'm like, I feel like an alien, but I'm not so alien that I don't fit in,
Yeah.
especially as like a
There's
neurodivergent
definitely,
person.
like flowing like patterns, like rivers of patterns where people are like going this way or going that. That's how I see it. It's like, oh my gosh, we are
Mhm.
like in the same flow. Like our consciousness is just like, yes,
Yeah.
like, yeah. hmm
I
Yeah.
find it so helpful to be able to categorize and group and organize in that way. I find that it helps me feel like I have a better understanding and better grasp
And look,
on.
go ahead, finish your thoughts.
Sorry, my thoughts forming in my head, just like in how I am able to connect people, understand where they're coming from, what their perspective might be, things of that nature.
And I think about us, like, what is our overlap? Because we obviously all get along. We've been doing this over a year together. We all like, there's obviously enough of a category like overlap that we all fit in. Maybe it's that we're a little alternative. Maybe it's the fact that we're queer. Maybe it's the fact that X, Y, I don't know what it is, but there's enough overlap. Maybe it's all that we're independent bitches.
Hmm.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's all that we work.
Maturity level probably too.
Yeah, sure. Age,
I
like
think we're all
everything.
naturally really curious people too.
True.
Like we all enjoy asking questions and kind of coming up with hypotheses.
True. So all of that I think is really beautiful. It really allows you to know like who you can have like a kinship with, who you can connect with, who you gravitate towards, for good or worse. Because damn, I did wake up one day in my life and look around at my friend group and I was like, is this who I want to be? Like, is this who I want around me? And I was like, I got to switch up my friend group, bro. I got to switch up my friend group.
Yep.
Jen, did you have your results? Oh, go ahead, Arena. Sorry, I see you. Go ahead.
That's what I was going to ask the same thing.
Oh,
No, it's so terrible. I don't know what happened to my specific breakdown. I can't seem to find it. Maybe I will find it
okay.
later. And then
Okay.
I
Yeah, let
can-
us know if it's in your email or something and later and share it on
yeah.
our at least DMs.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Arena, did you want to say something else or?
Nope. That was just going to ask Jen about whether she found her results.
Well, you want to start us off on your weaknesses?
Yes. So weaknesses are overlooking others' feelings, impatience, intimidating presence,
Ooh.
and perfectionism, which is interesting.
Oh, I can see that.
So when I took this last night, I remember seeing some of those same ones reading through it. I definitely had intimidating presence. And what was the first one that you said?
Overlooking others' feelings.
I did also have that one. Yeah, those were two that I was like, oh yeah, I do have to work on those. I need to be very mindful about that.
Harmony?
I would say,
Oh, go ahead. Jen.
sorry.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Arena.
yeah,
Go.
about whether we agree with them or not.
Yeah, tell me.
This is interesting. The impatience, I do feel that. So I've recently very much like been like, okay, I got to work on my patience. And I don't know if I'm like in a state of transition with some of these things, because I very much like recently one of my friends has thanked me for being so patient. And I was like, oh, interesting, because I kind of know myself as an impatient person. The intimidating presence, I like kind of scoffed at that one because I don't know. I just think I'm very nice, and if you're intimidated by me, then you're a little bitch. But maybe
Girl.
that's how I come across. And then the perfectionism is also interesting. But the little under thing says your high standards can lead to burnout and stress.
Oh,
And I definitely am a very worry worked, kind of stressed out person. And at the same time, I've been working on very much giving myself grace with my artistic process, where I'm like, okay, well, I'm rediscovering these things about myself. So my art's not going to be the best art ever. And it's been interesting to see that actually I am giving myself room to do that, and room to make mistakes, and room to learn. So that's why I'm like a little bit like, oh, like that perfectionism is maybe something that I'm also in a state of transition in.
yeah, I like that idea of like acknowledging that this is a moment in time too, because I do want to reassure. Question I get often is like, how do you change your category of person? I do have a little bit of a woo-woo belief that we all are ultimately meant to like meet our calling and like be the person that the universe planned for us, without actually believing that the universe has a plan for us. But I think it's just my way of saying that there's like a biological positioning in which we evolve both like spiritually and physically, and all of these things into like a state of symbiosis, positive symbiosis with the self. And so I'd like to think that all of these moments are leading up to a transition of not a conclusion. Like, I don't think the journey ends, but I think that we become more stabilized in like our path. And then that path is like always, there's always going to be a moment of like learning and growing and transitioning to a different, like, I don't know, higher self or whatever language works. You know, that's why I think all these bubbles are for. I think these bubbles are all having the same experience, but using different language to express this thing we're all going through.
What you just said there made me think of like a visual, like as we grow, there's going to be less forks in our path. And that's not to say that the path doesn't wind, but there's going to be less forks, or if there are forks, we might choose a path more confidently.
For sure. Or like, I say this on stream a lot, it feels like in life you like, there's the rock bottoms you keep hitting, but I think at some point in your life you don't hit rock bottom anymore. You simply, when everything is falling around you, you float slowly and you catch yourself and you float back up. Like, you go down, but you don't hit rock bottom in the same way. But it's D, so somebody else talk. Oh my God.
I get that. Like, you kind of can catch yourself. You can recognize yourself falling and maybe some similarities from times when you've hit rock bottom before, and slow it down a little bit, or redirect yourself before you actually make that impact.
Well, I think it makes perfect sense, right? The more we go on in life, the more experiences we have, so you can start to kind of see the pattern. You know, you get a bigger picture for life because you have more behind you. So you're like, oh, this is happening again. Now I know that I know what's happening, and I have all these tools from my experience to like navigate the lows.
Yeah, I've seen it before, or you know, I've this is familiar sort of a vibe.
I think about
Which is
it.
why I think life is leveled, because it doesn't exclude everything behind us. It includes it and then goes further. It goes beyond it, you know?
To give another visual, do you guys have you ever watched like a tsunami documentary? They're so sad. But before tsunami hits, basically the water recedes deeply into the ocean, and there's like a clue. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're like, oh, what's that? But if you know the signs, then you're like, I know what to do. Like something, that's how I think life is. In life, you learn how to understand what's happening so you can move quicker than before, versus being when you're like new and ignorant to the situation, you fall for, you don't think about, you don't move, nothing is in your brain saying like a tsunami is coming. And then when you learn the signs, you can start to like run faster, prepare, or at least warn yourself or prepare yourself. And I think that's what life is. Life is like making sure that you learn the signs of the pattern. Like Maiden said, like there's a pattern, and then you can see it. And so you can recognize where things are going, and so you can prepare. It was like one time I was in the car with my cousin and their partner, and I was in the car seat, and I saw my cousin, like their eyes went really wide, and I was like, holy fuck, I know what's going to happen. We're about to get into an accident. And she had stopped, and her eyes went wide and her hand went out to like guard her partner. And I just went like, oh Lord, whatever's about to happen. And then boom, we got hit with a truck. And I just remember thinking, like, in that moment, I had never been in that kind of a car accident, but I knew from just the way her face, she didn't say anything, but in my brain, I was like, okay, I know, like, this is an accident, right? Like, that's what people do when they're about to get hit. And then I could prepare myself, and it was fine. We all ended up fine. But it is something that I remember. If people are visual learners like I am, that imagery helps me understand what my goal is. What am I looking for? I'm looking to become better and more able, not perfect, but like able to see the signs so I can prepare myself before they happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And honestly, yeah, life makes way more sense in retrospect than it does like just going forward, you know?
Totally.
Of
So the more we
course,
have
of
behind
course.
us, yeah, the more transformative experiences we have, the more life opens up to us, the more truths become available to us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should I do my weaknesses now?
Yeah.
Okay. Overly idealistic, emotional intensity, need for independence, and avoiding conflict. And I would agree with that. And it's that is also very convergent with the first test that we went over too. The um
Love the loved one.
the nectar.
The
Yeah.
nectar.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I can, I think I see that in you. Like, I see how compassionate you are, and I see how like loving you are, and how you can meet people and how you can see the goodness in them. And I also know that like that's such a powerful strength, but I think like you said earlier, can also be like a bad thing sometimes because we're so empathetic that we are maybe too empathetic to people who maybe like
I overstep the boundaries. I miscalculate all the time because I just
yeah.
I don't have well, I'm learning now. I am learning. I'm
Yes.
like my eyes are becoming open to this now that like I need to okay, yes, I can have hyper empathy. I can have like an ability to really sense into people, but that doesn't mean I do the work for them.
Yes.
And that because I have empathy and I know like, ooh, that work is hard and like I know you're in a lot of pain right now, like I have to deal with my own intolerance for other people's pain.
Totally.
That's the toxicity. Like I can't handle their pain because I feel it so strongly.
Yeah.
And so then I overstep and I do the emotional work for them. And that's not helping me and it's not helping them.
True.
So
True.
like, nope. Get used to other people being in pain and it's okay. Like
Same.
you did your work. You figured out how to live with your pain, highly sensitive person here. Like you needed to do that. They need to do that too and they can do it. And
Same.
it hurts and it's hard and horrible, but like so good. And you cannot like deny that from them,
And that's what
and they might not choose it.
Yeah, moving into 2025, that's what I mean to say is like I need to stop doing like I am doing too much. Every time I think I'm not, I look back, I'm like, man, I'm really doing a lot of emotional labor for people. And I know it's going to feel like I'm abandoning them, but I need them to know I'm not abandoning you. I think you're ready and I trust you. And even if you're not ready, that's also okay. Like that's also your journey. It's like, I'm not abandoning you. I'm really rooting for you.
Does not make it your responsibility.
Exactly. Especially when these bitches be 30 years old. Get going. Let's go.
I do wonder, like, because I haven't like super related to your guys' journey with like really like letting in people that like are so against like your values and stuff. And I do wonder if part of it is because I grew up on the internet and I grew up in a lot of leftist community internet, like Left Book it was called, very legendary time. But those places had standards. They had standards and people would get kicked out, sometimes for quite frivolous things, but it was very much like we're curating a social experience here. And if you don't fit into it, you are out. And that's been interesting. Sometimes it's been, quite turbulent, but that's kind of how I always ended up structuring my life is very much birds of a feather. And if you're doing something that's like, that I view as fucked up, that's just not even going to be a thing. So that's been interesting too. I wonder whether the way that I grew up on the internet has influenced that, or if there's something else.
It's your family dynamic. It's got to be because like I don't get along with 90% of my family's values. So I learned to love people different than me. Like, did you have to do that growing up? Because like my families have very different values than me.
I would say less so. I grew up in a secular household. And that's been, so I grew up in a secular household and I'm secular. It like believing in God stopped at the same time as believing in Santa. Like it was never like a deeply spiritual thing. So I wonder if that is the difference.
I think it might be
Yeah.
because I can tell you, like, and I don't want to speak for Harmony, but like when you love your family and you see the goodness in them while they're so fucked up, you just can't help but see everyone in the world fucked up the way you see your family. Because you know what it's like to love a fucked up person. And they're really beautiful at times. There's a deep goodness to them. But yeah, you have to stop like holding their hand and doing the emotional labor for them.
Yeah, and I also think for me, actually, surprisingly enough, like my PDA does come into play for my empathy, because it's it's a nervous system response. So when my nervous system gets triggered because of my PDA, one of the ways, so you can either go into fight or flight, and so a lot of the time it's fight for me, but a lot of the time it's fawn, right? So I fawn to like ease their nervous system, which then soothes my nervous system. And then my logic person part comes in and tells a story that allows me to like be okay with what I'm doing. Oh, they didn't know better. Like, all these different factors are going on with them. And that's also a way of soothing my nervous system, like telling myself the story to it, so yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I wonder, Jen, do you relate more with Brittany and Harmony's experiences or more so with mine? Because from what I remember, your family was also secular and you
I would say I
with them for the most
probably relate closer to your experience. I think that growing up in a secular environment, probably we do have a lot of the same experiences in that regard.
Yeah, the religious trauma be real.
The religious trauma, but also the religious like message of just like forgive and like that kind of thing. So there's this inner turmoil that comes with it because it's so keyed on like overcoming your
it becomes really ingrained. Even as
Yeah.
you unlearn them. I think it would probably still be hard to not have that in the back of your mind.
Right. And that mixed with like a lot of unhealthy relating patterns and toxic patterns too.
Yeah. And then if you grow up with Jesus, I don't know about other religions, but like Jesus particularly made friends with the worst people because he saw the humanity in them. And I was like, I can do that.
All things to all men, right? I think St. Peter said that in the Bible.
Yeah. And I can do that. Like, I really see the good in all people, which is really not helpful most of the time, as much as you would think it is. It is for a philosophical lens. It's beautiful, man. I really humanize everybody. I can humanize the worst people in the world. The dilemma with that is like when put into practice in a community sense, then it becomes, hey, very serious. We have to like put down some boundaries, but also, especially and not to bring up politics, but the next 4 years is going to be very challenging for a lot of people. And it's hard for me to not sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist in some sense that I'm like, hey, this huge part of the population, I don't think I can engage with them in the same way because it's hurting my community. But then at the same time, like, am I really going to cut off like a whole part of the population? Like, is that really what's happening here? But it kind of feels like moving into 2025. That's why I'm focusing on my community as strong as I can, because I think I've kind of hurt my community here on the internet by being so open-minded to a lot of people. But also I can see the goodness in all of them. I just want to,
I think there's like a distinction because it's not that I don't see the good in everybody. I would grab lunch with practically anybody, but there's a difference between grabbing lunch and yapping. I can have a good yap sesh with practically anybody. And like you're saying, actually making them a part of your community. And so I do think like,
well, isn't everybody, but everyone's a part of our community in America, right? Like we're all Americans.
I would disagree.
What community are you talking about?
I'm talking about your 6 foot circle, the people that you feel, I guess, an obligation to, right? Because you feel an obligation to your audience.
Sure.
That's your community.
Sure.
And so it's not about like whether you can go and grab lunch with like a Trump supporter or whatever.
Sure.
I'm sure you can and have a wonderful conversation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the energy you need to bring into basically your house, right?
Well, see, okay, but my inner circle are all Trump voters.
Yeah.
But but I don't want them to. No, let me rephrase actually. Now that I'm married, my inner circle is not a Trump voter. My family dynamic is, but I'm also moving myself away from I'm actually moving myself away from my family a bit. I was like, hey, I love you guys. I'm putting a little bit of more emotional distance away from them because with peace and love, like it's getting a little intense, moving forward. And also I think I have to do it for the safety of my family, and my family is now me and my husband and my cat, right?
I have to do it for the safety of my brain.
Yes,
literally, this is where the hyper empathy comes in.
Yes.
I go into that environment and everything that I know and value is challenged because I can sense, so I can see where they're coming from.
Yes.
But I lose myself entirely. I lose my values entirely. And then I come away from like Thanksgiving or something and I'm just like so confused because I see their perspective. It's almost like I take it on, and that to me is where the unhealthiness comes in. It's like, no, let me put up this boundary around my psyche and myself, and like, I love you, but I need the space for my own well-being.
Yes. Okay, that thing that you do, I do that where I'm like, I can put myself in anyone's shoes and feel their feelings and cry their feelings for them.
Yes.
And then I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like it's killing me. Even though I believe in everybody's ability to get better, I can't keep doing it. It's eroding at my core. But the
more I learn about my neurodivergent brain, the more I'm like, oh, this is like part of it's actually part of the disability.
Yeah.
Like most brains like put up those boundaries naturally.
Yes,
there's a lot of gifting that and like I can use it for good for the world, but like, no, I need to take care of myself. I need to protect and guard myself.
Well, there was a conversation around sociology and how actually you're not supposed to have like a lot of empathy for the enemy. And I was thinking about that. I was like, I don't have that lived experience. Like I have empathy for everybody.
With the worst people.
With the
worst.
Is not a good
experience. That is not a good experience.
And I think it might be the neurodivergency where I was like, holy fuck, my brain's like at 100 billion% where I don't have that natural stopping point where I'm like, oh, I have to manually say like, don't do that. Leave this person alone and let them rot in the gutter. Besides, how horrible does that sound?
Extract yourself.
But when we talk about politics though and activism, we talk about like saving people and like not letting people rot in the gutter. That means everybody. Because are you gonna start picking and choosing which homeless person we like try to help? Or are we gonna ask them like, who'd you vote for? Are you homophobic? Are you transphobic? Or like, are we gonna help the homeless? And like that's where I struggle. I'm like, are we helping the homeless? Or are we picking and choosing? Like I'm confused about the rules.
That's ultimately where like the whole like some people would call that class reductionism or whatever, where ultimately we should all be focusing on the class that we occupy rather than any other, oh my God, why am I blanking on the word?
Like subcategory or anything.
Any other intersection. But then, obviously, so within like even leftism, there's discussions of like what takes priority over like how we operate and how we organize. So that's like a whole journey. And you brought up the thought of like your parents like not sharing your values, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, like I have like extended relatives and stuff and I love them and I get to stay with them, but like they're not in my they're not in my vicinity affecting my life, and so it's definitely like I'm very grateful that I had the experience of growing up in a secular household. My mother was like, hey, how did you vote? Like, what are these props? Please help me. Like, I trust you to like tell me how to vote and stuff. So that was very interesting. So yeah, that's definitely like a different experience. And I do think that that's probably contributed to the boundaries that I have with friendships as well. And like
makes sense.
People that I allow into my circle. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that's why I love like having these conversations too, because it really helps you fit. Like I think I share so much with Harmony in a lot of ways. Like I feel like I really like she sees me in so many ways. We have so much overlap where I'm like, oh my gosh, like this feels so real. But then I see my overlap with you too as well, where I'm like, oh, I see that. I see where we are the same. But then it really comes down to like our childhoods and how that brings up so much of our life. But then how beautiful is this moment to say like, we're all coming together at this part of our journey. Like out of all the people in the world, who knew the four of us would get together? Hey, I love to see it.
We do come from very different backgrounds, and you guys have, a somewhat more similar childhood, and Arena and I have a somewhat more similar upbringing, but we all have so many different experiences, and that's one thing that I really do enjoy about this is that we're able to see where things overlap and also where they don't and where they are different.
Yeah, I love it. Speaking of which, who has to still share their weaknesses? Just me or you?
You.
Me. Okay. My weaknesses. High standards. Is it a weakness though? Come on. Okay. Aversion to routine. Okay. You know what? Hear me out. I think I have ADHD. Okay. Direct communication style, autism. There you go. And then too independent, feminism. What are you going to do? Huh? But I see the default. Like I see the issues in all of these things. Actually, hyper independence was such a cope for me growing up, where I was like, I don't need anybody. I'm going to do it on my own. I can do this. And then it was like a pre-abandonment almost. And then that's why I think it's so nice to, my partner says I still can struggle to ask for help, but I am aware of it. So he'll bring it up. He'd be like, ask for help. And I was like, can you help me? And like, it is like, I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll just do it. But then also, I think I do it also automatically. Like I sometimes don't even like remember that I live with somebody. I'm like climbing the counters, trying to get to our shelf above. And he's like, just ask me to help. And I'm like, I'm already here. I'm already
Think of it. Yeah.
I'm already here. But I do love that at least I can choose not to be so independent if I want to. But also, man, it feels like a superpower sometimes. I really know that if everyone died in my life, I think I'd be fine. Not fine emotionally. That would be just horrible. But independently, I really got to give myself credit that with all of my disabilities at hand, I think I would be okay. It would be devastating, but I would be okay, which is like a big deal for me. But that probably comes from trauma, right? Like my need to rely on myself. Know that I can do it. So
Yeah, that's pretty big for me. I know that it is. And then you just get into patterns of life, and then it's like, even though I'm healing and like have come like such a long way in that, it's like just because of where my life is, I don't need to not be independent. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's serving
It actually,
you
yeah, it
well,
served
generally.
me and my family much better now for me
Yeah.
to be like very independent.
And actually, I don't want you to
And-
overshare.
yeah.
Do you
I
finish with
have
that?
Yeah, and I have support from my family too, so it's not like I'm solo or anything. But yeah,
And I don't want you to overshare, Harmony, but I don't know if you have this lived experience where one of the things that's really important to me is that I don't live at home with my parents. Not that they don't constantly invite us and tell us we can live at home, but I know the exchange if I live at home is I can't dress the way I want. I have to follow their rules. I have to adhere to their Catholic vibes. Like I can't have certain conversations. And my parents talk about people who need to get diagnosed with their neurodivergency. They don't understand. Like even now, it's getting worse, I swear, because there's no kids living at home. They just cannot fathom that they don't need to open their mouth about certain things they know are offensive to their kids. Like they just can't get it. Like they think they're helping. And I'm like, you don't need to bring up that you don't like gay people. You have 3 gay kids who are sitting at this table. You don't have to bring it up. In the same way that when I go to my parents' house, I do not bring up atheism. I do not bring up anti-God rhetoric. I do not bring up, they can't get it. Because in their brain, they're like, well, we share everything. And I was like, yeah, but now that we're at these ages, it's okay if we don't share everything and we talk about things that will bring us closer, not further. And then they'll be like, why do you guys always leave after 45 minutes? I'm like, well, because you're stressing me out. Where else do I go where I just get like lectured? And then I think it's cultural too, where they're like, we're your elders and we know better. And I was like, girl, if you knew better, you wouldn't be. No, you know what? God bless. I got to go.
It's like so crazy making. It's so crazy making, especially I think for someone like me, where it's like when I'm in my own little space, like I have such a clear idea of myself and who I am. And then when I go into these other spaces where it's like, it's almost like I automatically start acting the way that I know is expected of me. And
Totally.
it's like I feel myself slipping away when I'm there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about it because it's not like a conscious process for me.
Totally.
You know?
No, totally.
How my brain works, which is why I need those boundaries so much. But
open with
I will
boundaries.
say- yes, exactly. My parents are one of the things about their little cult group that they're in that's maybe good is that they have like teachings that are given to them about like how to react, how to relate to your children who don't share your faith. Da, 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 da. And so like one of the things that they're taught in the cult is actually to give us space to be who we are, because
That's
we now fit into the
positive, really.
category. Yeah, it is. It is. we now fit into the category of like non-believers, so we don't have the same rules. So my parents are actually like, yeah, that's one thing that I'm like, thank you so much. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
They
like
can like
holidays,
acknowledge and accept that it's not your
right,
belief.
right, exactly. And we share one of the values that we share is like autonomy. Like I am the only one who has to live my life. They are the ones who
Mm.
have to live their life. I'm an adult, they're adults. They don't get to say in my adult life. I don't get to say in theirs. And they really value that. And I think because we share that value, like we can make it work. The holidays were a little iffy because politics got brought up and
Oof.
other unfortunate family patterns, but yeah, but for the most part, they've come like a long way, a long way. And now also, I will say their youngest kid is like 23 now.
Yeah.
So they've had a lot of practice.
Yeah. Same. My little brother's about the same age, and it's interesting. And they're empty nesters, so they're gonna. Honestly, I think I'm panicking a little bit because they're getting like so lost on the internet and like these resources they send me. Girl, I've never been so stressed in my life than getting a link from my parents. Where like, here, this is good for your chronic health, and I'm like, this is a scam. Like, this is a scam, and it stresses me out because they're just like, you don't think I know things? I was like, girl. I'm gonna die. Please stop sending me these links. They're so well intentioned, but they're well intentioned. Like they're suffocating. They're so well intentioned. I think that's what scares me. Is like, wow, well intentioned people are some of the scariest people I've ever seen in my life.
Really,
The road to hell.
Girl,
that
girl,
is so true.
girl.
I have a question for everybody, but especially for the PDA girlies, because you both have you both have a not necessarily PDA because that's pathological demand avoidance, but there's like a demand avoidance, right?
Pervasive drive for autonomy.
Yes, I wonder. Like let's say you were brought up in secular households. Do you think that might feel like a demand, and then you might have rebelled against that? Like, is there like maybe a rebellious streak in you both? Because I'm like trying to think. I'm like, okay, what if I did grow up in a actually religious household? Because I don't feel like I ever rebelled, which is interesting. Like, I mean, I had like debates and arguments with my mother and stuff, but it was never like I never felt like abandoned by her in any way.
If I was born into the Simpsons family, I would have rebelled. If I was born into like Al Bundy, I would have rebelled. If I was born into like a family that wasn't curious or open-minded or interested in things, I would have rebelled, secular or not. But that's just my personality type. I'm curious and I don't like stagnation. My parents very curious, but had their limit. I'm curious with basically like no limits. So I think if I was born into any family,
because the drive is a drive for autonomy, anything that feels like it's coming out from the external and forced onto you that doesn't come from my values and emerge from the way that I exist in the world, that's going to feel like a threat to me.
Like Matilda's family. Right? Like if we were born into Matilda's family, we would be like, where's our books? Where's our curiosity? Where's our science? Where's our,
And honestly, any system that doesn't make sense to me it's like a sensory issue. It's like, it's almost like makes me puke. Like I really can't handle it.
It's a physical reaction.
Yeah. It sincerely is. It feels like I'm getting like chased by a tiger or something.
Also, Arena, and I want to say this. I think if my brother's this person, this category where like he was born into the perfect bubble and the perfect environment for him to thrive to the best of his ability, I think some people are just like get to be lucky that way.
Yeah.
I just think they do.
I wonder if
I have a couple siblings like that too.
I do wonder if it is like that, like if the luckiness is the having the PDA or not. Or like having that rebellious streak or not, or part of it. Because Jen, did you feel like you ever rebelled? Like,
In
against your
minor ways, like not in any
Yeah.
core belief ways, but I am a rebellious person in the fact that if somebody tells me I can't do something, like that is now my number one goal in life. Like, so if you tell me like that I can't do something, then like, okay, well, now I can't think of doing anything except that one thing, and I'm gonna find a way to make it happen regardless of the consequence. But these are things like I I guess an example is at one point in my teens, I decided to become a vegetarian. And that was a disagreement for my family. My mom is a big advocate of like animal proteins and dairy and stuff in diet. And so we did, I remember, have a disagreement about that. And it's not as significant maybe as about disagreeing on religion or things of that nature, but um when she was like not supportive of it, like I had to dig my heels in like really heavy and like provide her with like all of these books on why the meat industry was terrible and like how vegetarianism and plant-based diets could be really positive, and like I was determined to prove her wrong in that instance.
I think that's pretty great. I will say I do struggle with the framing of the question just because like no one's a monolith. So PDA is related to autism and slightly, I guess, ADHD, depending on how you categorize it, right? So the issue is like, are all people, autistic people, gonna rebel? Like, no, like that's not how that's gonna work.
right.
But does the PDA add in plus personality, plus environment, plus?
Mhm.
Sure, probably, right? Like it probably adds to some flavor of it. But I definitely am like the black sheep in the family. Even though all my siblings are very independent, I think I'm the only one who's as specifically driven and curious as the rest compared to the rest of them. Yeah, I don't know.
I think I'm the
Yeah.
child of the black sheep. So it was like,
Mm.
yeah.
See,
So
that makes
that's
a
That's
lot of
interesting.
sense. So I wonder if
Mm.
like she gave you a wide berth to like for your self-expression and
Mm.
yeah. Whereas
Having
for
been the
me,
black sheep herself, yeah.
yeah, like
Cool.
I feel like the religion I was raised in just gave me very clear and obvious ways to rebel. And also like it meant that I didn't have to do a super like I didn't have to like well, I got into an addiction and stuff, so that was but like aside from that, I didn't have to ruin my life, super bad in order to rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking now, and I was definitely like a shithead kid. Like I would argue with the teachers. So it's not that I'm not rebellious, just not with my mom. So that's been
Yeah.
an interesting thing that just clicked for me. I'm like, oh, I was definitely the shithead kid.
Well,
I think
okay,
But
there's
here's
like
the
a
question.
developmental stage, I think, when everyone is a little PDA,
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
And I guess the question is like, how much as a child did you question like who you really were on the inside versus like, I've been questioning that since I was like 8 years old, right? From my earliest like understanding of when I would sit with
Right.
myself and be like, who am I? What am I? Should I kill myself? Like how many 8-year-olds are thinking about killing themselves? Like that in and of itself is the uniqueness of that categorization. There's plenty that do, but not every 8-year-old is having that. It's not a universal experience.
yeah, I mean, I loved
Mhm.
darker themes for a really long time, but like more in an artistic way as part of our artistic expression
Yeah.
rather than like how I was feeling. So I like very much was like, I want to be like Juliet. Let's play Romeo and Juliet. I'm dead and beautiful and whatever. That was dead and beautiful. That was like I was obsessed with that at
Sure.
8,
Like
7.
Ophelia, like in the river, like in the lake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
There you go. There you go. Now we're almost done with this. We're just like 2 sections away. Now it's interesting. I didn't realize the way they phrase. So we went through strengths and weaknesses related to career. I didn't know they were in categories. So that was our career,
There's 2 different strengths and weaknesses.
right?
Yeah.
And then there's
Three, because there's
three.
relationships.
So this is personal growth is the next
Oh.
one.
Yeah.
And I'm already reading this paragraph and I'm like, for sure, bro. Like just the first sentence, right? Your path to personal growth is paved with intellectual pursuits and self-reflection. Bam. That's my journey right now. I'm like in that. The key difference here is intellectual pursuits. I think distinctly in my 20s in particular, I was really in pursuit of like feelings and art and like intuition and just like throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. And now I'm like specifically about the intellectual, like more academically like focused, more like structural systems. It's very different. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't think I need to read the whole thing, but it's up to if you guys are interested, you can read yours. I'm interested in the strengths and weaknesses in relation to personal growth, but does anyone want to read their paragraphs? I'd love to hear it if you want to share.
Sure. I will read my personal growth paragraph. It says, for you, personal growth is an exciting journey of self-discovery and authenticity. Pervasive drive for authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly seeking to understand yourself better and to align your actions with your values. This quest for self-improvement is admirable, but it can also lead to harsh self-criticism when you feel you're falling short of your ideals. Your path to growth involves learning to harness your boundless energy and creativity in productive ways, like just what we were saying earlier. This might mean developing better focus and follow through, or learning to balance your big picture thinking with attention to practical details. Embrace your natural curiosity and use it to explore personal development techniques that resonate with you. Growth isn't about changing who you are, but about becoming the best version of yourself. Yep.
Love that.
Yep. Mhm. And honestly, reading that, it makes me see that like I feel like I am coming into the more mature version of my personality because a lot of this is already true for me. I'm like, yes,
Mm,
now that I can harness these other like the discipline, thing and um yeah, better focus and that kind of like I'm
Like
yeah.
you've put in some work
Yes.
previously to now get to a more
Yes.
stable or more developed spot.
Yeah, exactly. So
love
my
that.
personality is a little bit more balanced, yeah. Mhm.
Love that. And then Arena, did you want to read yours?
Yeah, so mine says your journey of personal growth centers around balancing your natural strengths with developing new skills that may not come as easily to you. Lots of new hobbies on the roster. One of your primary challenges is developing emotional intelligence, learning how to recognize and respond to the feelings of others, as well as understanding and managing your own emotions. This involves cultivating empathy and patience, which can sometimes feel at odds with your efficiency driven nature. And I mentioned how like somebody thanked me for my patience today, which felt a little surprising because that is something that I've been on the journey of. So that does feel aligned with something that I'm already working on as well, which is fun.
I love that. I love that. And then Jen, you don't have anything to share, right? I'm sorry. Okay, just wanted to include you. Okay. So let's do the strengths then. So in relation to personal growth, my strengths are seeking growth, long-term planning, objective self-analysis, and intellectual curiosity. I mean, yes.
Mhm.
That's the goal. That feels really good to see because I'm like, that is my long-term planning, especially like as somebody who didn't long-term plan before, I'm really thinking about long-term here. That's like a very big change for me. Yeah. I'm taking it very seriously, like really seriously, which is very different for me. Who else?
My
Yeah.
strengths are intellectual curiosity, understanding others, authenticity, and adaptable.
Love it.
So, yep.
Yeah.
And
Mine
check.
are. Oh, sorry.
Oh, nope.
Did you
I'm
want
done.
to say no? Okay. Mine are drive for self improvement, logical approach, goal oriented, and self confident. I would like to think so.
Yeah, I think that sounds like, I think these sound like, I don't know, again, am I just like, man, this is all spot on, bro? But like, I mean, we did
But
fill
they
out the
feel
quiz.
Really, yeah, I feel like these are accurate.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, your weaknesses: overlooking emotional intelligence. I'm afraid I'm going to overcorrect. I don't want to overcorrect that empathy. Like, I was going too far in one direction. I don't want to go all the way in the other direction and overcorrect. So I definitely want to make sure I pay attention to that. Analysis paralysis. Oh, you should see me pace my living room when I'm making a decision. Let me tell you. Perfectionism, interesting. Never identified as a perfectionist before, but I might run into those problems in the future, actually. And a need for control. Okay, look here, buddies. Okay. Is it a need for control or is it just because you're the best driver? That's really the question, you know? But yeah, need for control is always something I think I've had to deal with my whole life, honestly.
I know I don't have access to mine, but I feel like
yeah.
that would be a weakness of mine as well.
Yeah.
I struggle with a need for control.
Same.
I can
That's
bet
actually,
that's on my report somewhere.
Yep. That's a PDA trait too that
Yeah.
I identify with. Yeah.
Okay, let's go down to the. Oh, go ahead. Do you want to give thoughts?
Oh yeah. My weaknesses are fear of missing out, perfectionism, strong emotions, self-critical. And, sounds about right.
We share one.
Ooh, which one?
So mine is overlooking emotions, self critical, work life imbalance, and avoiding self reflection, which is an interesting one because that's one that I've been working on with the Artist's Way, which is forcing me to do with the journaling. So,
Oh, interesting.
That Harmony and I have the self critical on there.
Yeah,
we have quite different
interesting.
results.
That's so true for me.
Any last thoughts before we go on to the next one?
Nope.
This one is the personal growth. So then hold on. The previous one was career.
Right.
So that's making me recontextualize. Okay.
Oh,
So when I
right,
mentioned like them
right.
asking me to train someone and I got impatient with that,
Um,
that was the career one that I
Because
got
it's
impatient
career
for.
specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's all I had.
Okay. Well, Harmony, are you good?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
To read. Okay. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Good. Good. No. Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. So relationships, juicy. We love that. I'll read my paragraph and then we can go through and read yours because I would love to hear this one. In your relationships, you value depth, authenticity, and intellectual connection above all else. You seek partners and friends who can engage in meaningful conversations and appreciate your unique perspective on the world. Your loyalty and commitment run deep, even if you don't always express your feelings openly. Yeah, I think that vibes. I think it even vibes with us. Like even moving into 2025, I'm trying to be very intentional about collaborations. It's because I'm seeking that conversation that I'm just like dying for. And I it's like this. Like I want to have this. And I just know it takes a very specific person to have this conversation. So thank you for being here, girls. It really means everything. That's really nice. Okay, who wants to share?
I agree. It's very nice. I'll go next. In relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or familial, you bring warmth, enthusiasm, and depth. Your genuine interest in others and your ability to see their potential make you a cherished friend and partner. You value authentic connections and are always ready to engage in deep, meaningful conversations that go beyond surface level small talk. However, your need for independence can sometimes clash with your desire for close relationships. You may struggle with feeling tied down or with partners who don't share your zest for life and new experiences. Finding the balance between connection and freedom is key for your relationship satisfaction. The right relationships will enhance your life without dimming your spark. They'll encourage your growth while providing you the grounding you sometimes need. Yeah, that feels definitely very true. Like, and I like how they like really got to like the heart of the matter for me that I always struggle with in relationships is like, yes, I really want to connect with people. That's like what I want so deeply is connection and like really to see and be seen. But that is in such tension with my need for independence and my need for that like internal self journey. Like, yeah, again, it's about finding that point of synergy between the two. And when they're not in that synergistic space, like it's very difficult to like maintain both of those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really right on for this test, I feel like. Yeah.
I love that. Actually, Arena, do you mind if I read the second part of mine? Because I think I did read the however.
I've been skipping over the first.
But now I kind of think it might matter. Like, okay, so mine says, however, your tendency to prioritize logic over emotion can create challenges in your personal connections, which is what I'm worried about when I overcorrect. You may struggle to understand or respond to others' emotional needs, and your direct communication style might sometimes come across as harsh or insensitive, which I'm trying to learn how to put down boundaries without being, harsh about it, right? Learning to balance your natural rationality with empathy and emotional expression is crucial for building and maintaining fulfilling relationships, whether romantic, friendly, or familial. And that's what I want to figure out because, that's the struggle moving into 2025 is like, how do I go on this journey without people feeling abandoned? But see, that's me also doing the emotional labor for them and like overcorrecting. And then it's like, okay, I also do trust the people in my life to handle it. I really think I've cultivated a very strong, stable community. And so even if some of them get a little butthurt about it, I know that they'll be fine. And that's like really reassuring for the process as well. Yeah. Okay, Arena.
All right. So I guess I'm going to read the full thing. In your relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, your direct and honest approach creates a foundation of trust and clarity. You value loyalty and commitment, and when you find someone who meets your high standards, you're willing to invest fully in the relationship. Your natural charisma and confidence can make you an exciting and inspiring partner or friend, always ready to tackle new challenges and push boundaries together. However, your relationships may face challenges due to your intense focus on goals and achievement, which can sometimes overshadow the emotional needs of those close to you. Learning to express your feelings more openly and making time for genuine emotional connections is crucial for maintaining healthy, balanced relationships. By developing your capacity for empathy and actively working on your emotional intelligence, you can create deeper, more fulfilling connections with the important people in your life. And this thing has called me emotionally stupid a bunch of times, so that's been fun. But definitely that's something that, even with my fiance and I, we talk about, like, he's like, smell the roses, look how much we've achieved. And I'm like, what's next? What's next? What are we gonna do next? And that's something that I'm like slowing down, and yeah, I'm definitely on that journey for sure.
Okay, I love
I
that.
appreciate the tension. I appreciate the however part. Like, that's a nice,
Yeah.
because it's like,
a good
yeah,
balance.
you're good at this, but here's like where you can grow into your personality. Yeah.
Totally.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like the way they're presenting that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to read this over. I'm going to actually have my partner take the quizzes and then go over it again probably and see if I notice something tomorrow or after reflection, because maybe I'm missing something even in this moment, right? Because I'm multitasking and stuff.
Yeah. And there's a lot of information.
There is a lot. It is a lot. Oh my! If you take the actual Myers-Briggs test too, it is a lot of reading after.
Mhm.
This is like a condensed
It really
version.
is.
Okay,
Right.
so strengths and weaknesses in relation to relationships. So your strengths: loyal, direct communication, intellectual depth, problem-solving skills. I'll take it. Amen.
Mine are highly empathetic, bringing excitement, authentic communication, and adaptability. Which I feel like those were on like so many of my other ones, but yeah,
Vibes.
it fits.
Brittany and I shared two. I got loyal, I got intellectually stimulating, direct communication, and protective, which is true. I'm ready to fight bitches.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Okay, love that. How about weaknesses? Harmony, you want to start?
Sure, mine are overly idealistic, emotional intensity, need for independence, and avoiding conflict.
Oh, a weakness is needing independence?
Mm-hmm.
So we run into the same, like, that overlap.
Yeah, your need for personal space might be misinterpreted as detachment.
Okay, that's
Which
all.
is true. I when I'm unhealthy in my attachment style, I do tend to be more avoidant.
Sure, relatable. Yeah.
Yeah.
My weaknesses are emotionally reserved, dislike of small talk. Okay, that feels like ableism right there. Okay, and then need for independence and high expectations.
We share one there with the emotionally reserved. I also got overpowering presence.
Step on me, mommy.
It says your strong personality can sometimes overshadow others' needs. And then impatient, again, we got the impatient, and then overly critical. Your high standards might lead to excessive criticism of loved ones. And that's definitely something where I'm like, whew, all right, that one is one I need to work on as well.
You want to be aware of that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, huh? I think that's it so that's the end, but I also want to get to the last part, which is architects you may know. That's mine, architect. But like it tells you other famous people that might be in your similar category. So I'd love to know yours. And honestly, like if you guys just pull up the NTJ, it will give you general people. So Jen, if you want to do that.
I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's generalized actually. I guess we'll find out because you and Arena can compare. But like architects, there's a lot of them. So I'll just read the first like four. Nietzsche, which we love. Michelle Obama, which we love. Okay, Elon Musk, which okay, whatever. And then Christopher Nolan. Yeah, actually true. But I do love the Michelle Obama overlap. I'll take it. Thank you.
Mine are Robert Downey Jr., Robin Williams, Quentin Tarantino, Kelly Clarkson, Will Smith, Meg Ryan.
Oh, artists, comedians, arty. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
Let's go.
And then a bunch of other people I don't know. Oh, Carrie Bradshaw.
Shut up.
Speaking of Sex and the
Okay,
City.
I got Walter White from Breaking Bad. What does that say? I'm not what's happening.
You're you
ruthless?
know how to problem solve and
but sometimes the empathy makes it so you have now a problem to solve.
Oh, great.
Yes,
great.
exactly.
Great.
So ones that stand out to me are Gordon Ramsay,
Ooh.
Margaret Thatcher, excuse me, there's Jim Carrey, and then I kept scrolling because it gets into his fictional characters, and there's one
Yeah.
There's who?
Milady de Winter from the Three Musketeers. I was obsessed with that character when I was a kid. I
Oh.
thought she was so
Nice.
hot. I was like, I want to be her. She's a villain though, but I was like, I want to be her when I grow up. I thought she like in the Soviet musical version. I just thought she was super hot, but I'm heterosexual. Thank you.
Mm.
I'm not. That's a joke. But yeah, I was obsessed with her. So for her to like pop up right now,
That's so
'cause I don't know how
interesting.
many- yeah, I'm like,
I don't know anything about her. Like, I don't even know who that is.
he like basically works for, I don't know if you know the story of the Three Musketeers.
God, it's
but
been
she
so
works for
long.
the cardinal, who's,
Okay.
like trying to puppeteer the king and like
Oh,
influence
okay.
the political situation of France and
Interesting.
whatnot.
Okay, I literally got Moriarty and then Gandalf the Grey, and I feel like they're very different people. So now I'm very confused, like about the overlap there. Like, but talking
Well,
about
no, 'cause
villains.
Gandalf does his hot boy shit and whatever he wants. Like, and Moriarty from Sherlock
Sure.
Holmes,
Mm-hmm.
he also like orchestrates situations.
Yeah, I guess that's
like-
true. I guess that's true. Jen, were you able to get a list of anybody?
So I remember when I was looking at it last night that I did see Gordon Ramsay and Steve Jobs like just listed as the general category for commander, but I do recall, because I talked about this with my partner as soon as the results came up, that there were two fictional references that I like was curious about. One is the House of Cards character Jackie Sharp. Did you guys watch House of Cards at all?
Gosh, I wish I had. I
Okay.
really got to do it though.
It's a good one, and I do see myself a lot in that character. And then another one that it mentioned for me was Miranda Priestley of Devil Wears Prada.
Stop!
Yes.
Stop!
So love her, but also I
Yeah.
do
Like
want to
boss,
not be
babe.
as like cold as she is, right?
Yeah.
Like I do want to
Uh-huh.
work on my emotional intelligence in that regard to not
Yeah.
be just a total bitch.
Yeah. She's like, as a kid, I think we all, like, if you watch The Devil Wears Prada, like, you wanted to
You,
be
like-
her, but you also realize, like,
Yeah.
all of her lackings. But then that's that balance between the corporate person who's successful and the person who's like balancing that family life and that like relationship life. And yeah.
Like, I think if I had let myself continue in my original corporate career, I would 100% be becoming a Miranda Priestley. Like, my role in my career now, I'm much more approachable. I'm much softer. I'm still in a leadership position,
Sure.
but I let my guard down a lot when I was in my previous role. Like, it wasn't unusual for me to make people cry with my feedback, and I feel bad
Yeah,
about that
wow.
now. I was a little harsh. I was
Yeah.
a little too distant.
That's so interesting. Okay, so now that we've done it, any thoughts, questions, observations?
I'm just questioning my love of sexy evil women.
Yeah, as you should.
Just, like processing. Yeah, I'm like, damn. Like, have you guys seen Sinbad?
Yeah. Oh,
Platoon.
yes. Oh my
Whereas-
God. Don't even get me Michelle Pfeiffer, bro. Don't even get me started. What a dream. Dream. I love her. She's the whole reason I get through that movie every time. Love it. I'm really happy with the results.
I like the test, and again, I like that they go into like how you can grow into your personality, so that you're not like just like getting into this little narrow tunnel version, and like and all the worst aspects of it are coming out. But like, no, here's how you like flourish your good traits, yeah, and avoid
Right.
growing
And
into
the
these
hope is-
bad
Play to your
traits.
strengths and be aware
Yeah.
of your weaknesses, which
Yeah.
I
I
think is
the
cool.
hope is for you to like cycle, maybe not through all 16, but to cycle through a few. Because as you balance, maybe you will overcorrect and you'll balance, and then you'll fall into the next personality, and then you'll have new things to
Yes.
kind of explore. So I'd be
Yeah.
curious to take this in 5 years and see where I'm at.
Yeah, same.
Definitely.
Definitely. And I'm going to be making my partner take both of them.
It literally, that's the first thing I
As
keep
well as,
thinking.
like, any other
Friends
friends,
and
that I can convince
I
to take it too.
There's nothing I love more than making my friends take this quiz. Like, there's nothing I love more than be like, take this really fast. And they love it. People love knowing about themselves, but sometimes they don't
Yeah.
have the tools to think about it. And I know it's been helpful to my siblings and friends to be like, oh, I never like thought about myself in this way. And again, you're not letting the test like define you forever. It's just like a nice feedback tool. It's a nice feedback tool. You know, I think that's really cool. Oh, by the way, shout out to Love is Blind, because one of the guys was like, as ENTJs, we are meant for each other. And I was like, slow down there, buddy. Okay, slow down there, buddy. And it was so funny hearing him use that in like a serious way. I was dying. They did not make it to the
That's so
altar. Let me
funny.
tell you, they broke up. But like, it was a pretty funny like idea. But I also like with astrology, my partner and I are always looking up our signs. I'm like, let's see how compatible we are. And according to astrology, we are one of the most compatible partners, and they're right. Okay, so the joke is is it real or not? Who knows? But it is sometimes accurate.
I mean, I see the
Mhm.
pattern. I can see the pattern. I don't know how people figured it out, but I can see the pattern.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My partner and I are also each other's top compatibility
Mhm,
match from an
mhm.
astrological perspective. And fun fact, we met online on a dating site way back when, and we were each other's number one compatibility match on
Nice.
like our list of matches. We had like a 95 or something percentage. So I remember seeing that and
Awesome.
thinking, this is the person I'm going to message.
Love that. Love it.
Oh,
All right, ladies, we did it. Any last thoughts?
this was
This
so
is so
fun.
fun.
Yeah, I could talk about this kind of thing forever.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah, I really loved this one. It was a really good subject, really good idea. I think Arena, was it your
Yeah, I think
idea
it was
for us
Arena's
to look at
idea.
personalities?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great idea.
awesome.
I was gonna say I'm glad that my friend and I decided to impulsively get our belly buttons pierced today. 'Cause
Cute.
then that's a natural end to this because I have like a appointment.
You've got
I
something
gotta
to
get
do.
to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, ladies,
Otherwise, we could probably ramble for hours.
we could.
Right.
And plus, it's getting late here. It's my bedtime for sure. All right, ladies, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for watching. I will go ahead and link everyone's social media as per usual. And I see you, Sleeve T Rocks in the chat says great panel, super interesting. Thank you guys for watching.
Heck yeah.
Do you guys want to shout yourselves out or just have me link stuff? What do you guys want to do?
You're good just to link it.
Yeah, I
Just
think
link
linking
it. Is that
fine.
easy? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, ladies. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Guys, I will see you guys whenever I do live shows. Tuesday. Okay.
Lovely to chat with y'all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Have a great day.
Okay, good night, guys. Have a good one. Treat yourselves well. Thank you for being here. I'll see you again for stream. Bye.